Chapter 1370. Murphy still didn't understand. He thought that Rebecca was going to a faraway place to film. Rebecca was put in a difficult position. Should she tell him directly? Or should she keep him in the dark forever? Suddenly, Rebecca looked up. "Murphy, come with me." "No, no, no. If I skip work, the boss will kill me. If he dares to bully you, I'll kill him." Rebecca's eyes flashed with fierceness. Murphy was shocked, even though Chen Zhao wasn't beside him right now. Whenever he thought of how terrifying Chen Zhao was, Murphy felt terrified. Who knew if Chen Zhao had some kind of spell that could spy on people who were bad-mouthing him behind his back? "Murphy, I'll tell you directly," Rebecca said. "I'm leaving L.A. and I might never come back." In the end, Rebecca told the truth. No matter how she beat around the bush, she still had to tell the truth. Since that was the case, she might as well tell the truth. Murphy jumped up and stared at Rebecca with widened eyes. "Why? Why?" Murphy asked 2 whys in a row. Murphy felt as if his heart had been pulled hard, and his heart ached terribly. This was Murphy's first relationship. He never thought that it would end like this. "Murphy, come with me. Let's leave here together." Rebecca grabbed Murphy's hand. Murphy felt his limbs go cold. He shook his head hurriedly. "No, no, I can't leave without the boss' permission. He'll kill me. He'll really kill me, and you, give me his address. I'll talk to him." "No, I really don't want it." Murphy pulled Rebecca. He didn't dare to tell the truth. Back then, he'd almost been killed because he'd found out Chen Zhao's secret. He didn't want Rebecca to be in danger too. "I don't understand. What are you afraid of?" Rebecca was angry at Murphy's cowardice. Suddenly, Rebecca's arm was hammered, and a flower of blood bloomed. Then there was a gunshot. Rebecca reacted quickly and immediately pulled Murphy to the ground. "Rebecca! What's going on? You're wound." "Shut up." Rebecca was very upset. She crouched on the ground and looked around. Bang! The ground around Rebecca and Murphy kicked up gravel. The shot missed. It wasn't the original sniper who fired the shot, but someone else. Rebecca had to focus and observe the sniper's position. But before they could find the sniper, they saw several gunmen from the Black Hand coming through the ruins. Not just that. "There are still people in the bushes behind us." There were more gunmen. Snipers. 1, 2. So far, only 2 had been found. Rebecca had a bad feeling about this. "Get in the car. Let's get out of here," Rebecca shouted. "I'll hold them off." Murphy was so frightened that he hugged his head and curled up on the ground. Rebecca, on the other hand, disappeared into the bushes. Then, gunshots came one after another from the ruins. If Murphy's mother knew that Dracula's son was such a coward. He wondered if she would be so angry that she would rush over and strangle him to death. He let the woman he liked charge into the fray while he lay on the ground like an ostrich. But it couldn't be helped. Murphy had too little experience. The only time was in the crypt demon lair. But it wasn't him who attacked. It was Chen Zhao who arrived. Murphy suddenly thought that he could ask Chen Zhao for help. Murphy immediately took out the phone. Just then, a strong hand grabbed Murphy by the collar and lifted him up. "Murphy, why are you still here?" Murphy looked up. It was Rebecca. But at the moment, Rebecca was covered in blood. Some of it belonged to the enemy, while others belonged to her. "Rebecca, I'm looking for the boss. He'll come and save us. Get in. Let's go." Rebecca threw Murphy into the car. Because of the excessive blood loss and the strenuous exercise, Rebecca's heartbeat was beating unnaturally. I'll drive. I'll drive. Looking at Rebecca, Murphy knew that she couldn't drive. Duh. Just then, gunshots came from behind again. The windshield and the car had a few holes. Lowering his head, Murphy floored the gas pedal. Many headlights appeared behind them at the same time. Thankfully, the Porsche 918 was much more powerful than the pursuing car. But Rebecca didn't look so good. Enduring the pain, she dug out the bullet embedded in her wound. If she didn't, her wound wouldn't heal by itself. But she couldn't do anything about the blood loss. Oh no! Rebecca suddenly shouted. We can't go any further. There's no road ahead. The coastal road wasn't long. The desert was right in front of them. Before Murphy could react, the car drove into the gravel at the end of the road. The distance that the sports car had created earlier was gone. The sports car could only run on flat roads. It couldn't run on sand at all. Let's go. Rebecca pulled Murphy out of the car. They couldn't turn back now. They could only run deeper into the sand. Rebecca looked back again. It seemed that the Mafia family was determined to kill her this time. They actually sent so many people. There were at least 30 cars parked at the end of the road. There were probably close to 100 people. If it was just a few people, she could easily take care of them. She could barely kill a dozen or so people. But if there were 100 people, there was really nothing she could do. Murphy, let's go separately, Rebecca said. No, I'm going to send you out. You'll only be a burden if you stay here. Rebecca didn't want to drag Murphy down. That's what they say on TV. Anyway, I won't leave you, Murphy said. Murphy, don't you understand? You and I aren't the same kind of people. Murphy turned around and looked at Rebecca with a serious look in his eyes. Actually, I'm a vampire. My full name is Murphy Dracula. What? Rebecca looked at Murphy in shock. Vampires? Are you kidding? No, I'm serious. Murphy opened his mouth and revealed his 2 canines. Look, my teeth. Are there really vampires? You're a spiritualist. Don't you know? Murphy asked in confusion as he supported Rebecca. I don't have much contact with other spiritualists, Rebecca said. Suddenly, Rebecca's legs turned to jelly, and she almost fell to the ground. Are you too tired to walk? I'll carry you. Murphy pulled Rebecca behind him, and Rebecca felt a sense of security. At least, Murphy was the same as her. Do vampires have any special abilities? For example, turning into bats or flying? Chapter 1371. Murphy, you're tired too, right? Rebecca looked at the sweaty Murphy. Carrying a person in the desert, even though Murphy's stamina was extraordinary, it was impossible for him not to be tired. It's okay. I can keep going. Puff, suddenly, blood blossomed from Murphy's left thigh. Another sniper. Ah! Murphy cried out in pain. Rebecca's expression became even more serious. She pressed Murphy's body onto the ground. She could already see the Mafia approaching from afar. What should she do? What should she do? This was the first time Rebecca was at a loss. There was nowhere to hide and Murphy was injured. Leave him behind. Rebecca couldn't do that. In the past, she never had feelings for anyone. But once she did, she would do anything without caring about her own safety. In the end, this battle ended with her loss. This was because she could no longer kill people without any worries like she did in the past. Even if she couldn't kill people, she could run if she couldn't win. Mr. Chin, I'm at the end of the North Coast Beach Road. Francis looked at the figure in the sand. Once he was discovered, he would immediately turn around and run. Your man and the female assassin are in danger. Francis told him everything he had seen. He was very nervous. These people were all mafia. He could tell from their clothes and behavior. In America, the mafia was undoubtedly the last person to mess with. Suddenly, the car shook violently. Francis's head hit the steering wheel. Then the airbag popped out and bounced Francis back. In a daze, Francis felt himself being dragged out of the car. Then, a stinky liquid was poured on his face. Francis woke up. Black suit, white gloves, gentleman's hat. Francis shuddered. I noticed someone was following us. Is it that woman's accomplice? Hey, who are you? Francis couldn't care about the pain anymore. He quickly covered his head. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I'm a reporter. Reporter. The gang leader frowned. He was an enforcer of the mafia. He worked directly for the leader and only listened to the leader's orders. Although they themselves were lawbreakers, they still called themselves law enforcers. Usually, if there were any enemies or traitors in the family, the enforcers would lead a team to deal with them. The organizational structure of the party was mostly based on the structure of the family, and the patriarch was the supreme existence. Of course, there were also mafia bosses who were bosses or fathers. The second was the advisor, who could be considered as the personal assistant of the patriarch and had great authority. Then there was the secondary patriarch, which was usually held by the patriarch's brother or wife. Next were the commanders and soldiers. One of the subordinates moved closer to the law enforcer. I found a camera in his car. I checked the contents. He seems to be following that woman. The enforcer picked up the camera and checked the content inside. Why are you following that woman? Someone hired me. Francis didn't plan on helping him hide it now. Since he was about to lose his life, there was no point in hiding anymore. Moreover, he was forced to do this job. Francis forced himself to calm down and said, I'm not following the woman. I'm following the man. I know nothing about you, and I won't tell anyone about this. Right now, he only hoped that Qin Zhao's reinforcements would arrive soon. Otherwise, these vicious mafias wouldn't let him live at all. You're lying. The enforcer suddenly grabbed Francis' collar in anger. No. I didn't. I really didn't, Francis cried out hurriedly. Actually, the enforcer was just bluffing Francis. Just then, the people in the desert came out, dragging Rebecca and Murphy out. Both of them were thrown in front of Francis. Seeing Rebecca, the enforcer went up and kicked her hard. This woman had brought him too much trouble. She'd also caused him too many casualties. Rebecca was covered in cuts and bruises. It was a tragic sight. Tell me, who is he? The enforcer asked, pointing at Francis. Rebecca saw Francis on the ground, who was connected to her in the same situation. I don't know him. In fact, Rebecca really didn't know Francis. She was even more confused. She didn't understand what these mafias meant. Why is he following and filming you? Rebecca suddenly remembered that someone had been following and filming her yesterday. So it was this man. But Rebecca really didn't understand. Boss, what should we do with this woman? Wait, I'll call the chief, the enforcer said. Of course, he wanted to kill Rebecca right now. He knew how dangerous this woman was. If she was transported to New York, it would be very troublesome. Who knew if something would happen to her on the way? Before this, there had been many records of her being captured. But every time, she found an opportunity and escaped. After so many years, almost 100 people had died in her hands. To be honest, even as a mafias, he felt how terrifying this woman was. Hey, Chief, we caught that woman. I'm asking you how to deal with her. Kill her. I'm tired of this long and trivial hunting. I don't want any more accidents this time. Yes, I understand. The enforcer finally smiled. After the enforcer hung up the phone, he pulled out a cold pistol from behind his back, walked in front of Rebecca, and pointed it at her head. Rebecca had completely lost all hope. This time, she couldn't fight back. She didn't have any chance. These gangsters had learned to be more obedient after fighting with her over and over again. They didn't give her any chance at all. No. Don't hurt Rebecca. If you want to kill someone, kill me. Murphy struggled and tried to rush over to save Rebecca. Bang! Blood blossomed on Murphy's chest. When Rebecca saw Murphy on the ground, she struggled to get up as well. But the two mafias behind her hit the back of Rebecca's head with their gun butts. Rebecca fell to the ground, and the enforcer pointed his gun at Rebecca's head. Do you have any last words? Rebecca looked at Murphy in pain. Murphy, I'm sorry. Looking at Rebecca weakly, Murphy smiled miserably. The boss will come to save us. He will. Don't be afraid. The boss will come. Chapter 1372. Just when Rebecca was in despair. Suddenly, a scream came from the darkness. Everyone froze. They were at the end of the road, and there were no streetlights along the way. Clouds covered the moon tonight, so there was no natural light. Their only source of light was the headlights. Everything was dark except for a dozen cars. But the scream came too suddenly. This sound was more like someone playing a prank. But except for Rebecca, Francis, and Murphy, everyone else was black. They were a bunch of people who didn't know humor. Obviously, this wasn't a joke. Or, it wasn't a prank at all. What happened? The enforcer asked, looking up. I don't know. Send a few people over, the enforcer said. As soon as they entered the darkness, intense gunshots and screams came. A gunman ran to the enforcer in panic. Boss, there's, Before the gunman could finish, he was dragged into the darkness by something. But no one could see clearly what it was. And when the gunman was dragged into the darkness, his posture was too strange. He didn't look like he was dragged into the darkness at all. Everyone felt their hair stand on end. All the gunmen pointed their guns at the darkness. But the next moment, a car appeared in front of them. It was their car. But the car didn't appear from the front. Instead, it smashed at them from the side and then smashed into the cars next to them. On the spot, more than a dozen gunmen were smashed into meat sandwiches. The car didn't hit them in a straight line. Instead, it drew an arc in the darkness, as if it had been swung by something. The gunmen didn't know what to do. They couldn't see where the enemy was at all. They could only shoot aimlessly into the darkness. Maybe they thought that if they were lucky, they could hit the enemy. At this time, the headlights of the car at the end of the road disappeared. Their field of vision shrank again. One of the gunmen threw a grenade. The moment the grenade lit up, everyone saw the grenade swallow a figure. Was it over? Everyone had the same question in their minds. Just then, red lines began to extend in the darkness. The red lines seemed to drift with the current. Everyone was afraid of the unknown. No one understood what was happening. The red lines began to turn black from the left and right, and the lights of the cars parked along the road went out one by one. At this moment, the red lines had completely surrounded black. In the next instant, all the cars were pulled into the darkness and disappeared. All the light sources disappeared, and everyone was plunged into darkness. Boom boom, 3 minutes. It was only 3 minutes. All the sounds disappeared. At the end of the road at night, the silence was frightening. At this moment, the Porsche 918's headlights suddenly lit up. Rebecca and Murphy suddenly saw someone standing in front of them. Rebecca's reaction was the fastest. She quickly retreated. Boss! Murphy exclaimed in surprise. He had long known that it was Chen Zhao. However, he hadn't seen Chen Zhao use dark lava before, so he wasn't sure. Chen Zhao glanced at Murphy, then at Rebecca. Finally, he saw a few bullet holes in his car. Murphy, do you know that you've skipped work today? Boss. I didn't do it on purpose. Chen Zhao lifted Murphy and slapped him in the face. Do you know that my car is damaged? Boss, let go of Murphy. Rebecca had recovered quite a bit by now. She charged at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao raised his hand and grabbed Rebecca's neck. Rebecca wanted to struggle, but the strength she was so proud of was as weak as a baby before Chen Zhao. Rebecca had never felt so powerless before. She tried to resist. But her resistance was futile. According to the damage to my car, you have to pay me $300,000, Chen Zhao said. Boss. I don't have money. Can you let Rebecca go first? No money. Black Boastier appeared behind him, opening his abyss-like mouth. No money. Does that mean you want to go back on your word? Let Murphy go. I'll help him pay back the money he owes. Rebecca finally understood that Chen Zhao was a real demon king. Murphy wasn't exaggerating at all. This man was terrifying. More than 100 gangsters had died in his hands just like that. Even their corpses couldn't be found. Do you have money? I don't. Give me 3 months. I promise I'll pay you back, Rebecca said. Rebecca felt that even if she had to steal or rob, she would find a way to pay for Murphy. It might be possible to get $300,000 in 3 months. Ha! Chen Zhao sneered. Do you think I have the patience to wait for 3 months? Boss. Don't joke around. Murphy was really scared. He knew Chen Zhao's temper. Chen Zhao was always moody. Chen Zhao casually tossed Murphy and Rebecca onto the ground. He turned to look at Francis, who was stunned, and threw a stack of money in front of Francis. Do you know what to say and what not to say? Francis swallowed. Looking at the stack of money again, he nodded hurriedly. I know. I'll watch my mouth. It's okay if you can't. I'll shut your mouth forever, so don't give me a chance to make you shut up. Got it. Francis grabbed the money on the ground and stuffed it into his pocket. You're still here. Francis stared at the night sky. You want me to walk back? What else? I'll take you. But L.A. is dozens of kilometers away. I can probably walk to L.A. at dawn. Francis lowered his head helplessly. Just then, a jackal howled in the night sky. There really were jackals in the desert. Francis was so scared that he almost peed his pants. Mr. Chin. Can I go with you? Why should I bring you along? Chen Zhao looked at Francis. Francis took out the money. How about I pay you back? I don't need money. Francis was about to cry. Tell me what you need me to do. How about this? I don't need you to do anything. If I need you in the future, just be smart. Chapter 1373. Chen Zhao looked at Murphy and Rebecca. This was Rebecca's first encounter with a spiritualist other than Osalisa. She'd once thought that she was strong enough. But after seeing Chen Zhao for real, she realized how insignificant she was. She had never known that a single person could wipe out the entire Black Hand gang. Even when she was at her best, she never had such a thought. Although the mafia here wasn't the entire family, it was still the family's full strength. Rebecca didn't think that the family would go all out for her. But she also didn't think that it would end like this. "Boss, I'll ask my mother for money. She has money." Murphy looked up at Chen Zhao. He was even more afraid of Chen Zhao now. "Sure. Call her." Chen Zhao tossed his phone to Murphy. Murphy picked up the phone and dialed Agnes's number. "Hey, Mom, help. Boss wants to kill me." Instinctively, Murphy complained to his mother. "Oh, you're not dead yet," Agnes said, unconcerned. "I borrowed Boss's car, but I was attacked and the car was damaged. Now Boss wants me to pay $300,000. Can you lend me $300,000? I don't have money." "Go to hell." When Agnes heard that Murphy wanted to borrow money, she directly refused him and hung up the phone. Murphy was dumbfounded. Did his mother want him to die? "Looks like even your mother can't save you." Chen Zhao smiled at Murphy. Murphy looked at Chen Zhao with a sad face. "Boss, what do you want to let me and Rebecca go? Keep patrolling for me. I'll let you go when you pay the money." Chen Zhao didn't have a good solution now. In fact, it wasn't about the $300,000. Chen Zhao just casually asked for $300,000. The Porsche 918 was expensive, but it couldn't be repaired for $300,000. To put it bluntly, he was making things difficult for them. But how should he deal with them? He couldn't kill them. Looking at Rebecca's eyes, Murphy knew that the kid was really in love. If he killed Rebecca directly, Murphy would either be crippled, or he would fight to the death with him. So, Chen Zhao planned to keep Rebecca alive for now. As for the future, he would think about it in the future. At the very least, it would be up to Murphy's mother to decide. At that time, it would be none of his business whether he was killed or tortured. "Boss." Then, unwilling. "Forget it, I'll kill her now." Chen Zhao stepped forward. Rebecca wanted to escape, but Chen Zhao had already grabbed her neck. I agree. Don't hurt Rebecca." Chen Zhao let go of Rebecca again. "Don't try to run. You can't run anywhere in L.A. If I catch you after you run, you'll suffer a fate worse than death." Chen Zhao and Francis left in the sports car. He left Murphy and Rebecca rooted to the ground. After Chen Zhao left, Rebecca slumped to the ground helplessly. Half of it was because he was weak, and the other half was because he was scared. That person is your boss." Murphy nodded silently. "Actually, boss is usually quite nice, as long as you don't offend him. What if you offend him? The boss once fought a very scary monster. That monster called itself the Fallen Source. Then, the boss cut that fallen source into pieces. Don't be an enemy of the boss, absolutely don't be an enemy of him. He has many subordinates, and each of them is very scary. The boss also has many pets." Murphy suddenly paused. He realized that he'd said too much. Because he'd discovered the three-headed dog and the Hydra, Chen Zhao had never let him go. "Why aren't you talking? Boss's pets can actually turn into monsters? Like that huge black beast just now." Rebecca pointed at Bustil. "That's not Boss's pet. I think that guy's called Bustil. I think he used to be Boss's enemy too. Then Boss skinned him and controlled him." Rebecca shuddered. This guy was quite brutal. Last time in San Diego, the local gang offended Miss Failai, Boss's girlfriend. Then boss chopped off the hands and feet of the gang's hundreds of members. Rebecca vaguely remembered this incident. It had been too big of a deal. The police couldn't hide it even if they wanted to. It seemed that a truck full of gang members with their limbs chopped off was stopped at a stop and then set on fire. She didn't expect Qin Zhao to be the culprit. The more Rebecca heard, the more terrified she became. No wonder Murphy said that his boss was a demon. Francis didn't speak on the way. He didn't dare to speak either. He just drove in silence. Qin Zhao leaned against the car door, thinking about something. Qin Zhao hesitated. Francis immediately pricked up his ears. Continue investigating that woman called Rebecca, Qin Zhao said. I want to know more. Okay, Mr. Qin. You'll get all the money you deserve. Qin Zhao paused. Then he said, investigate the identity of the person who attacked them today. He looks like a gang. It's the New York gang. Oh. You know. I know how they talk and do things. The white glove guy is a law enforcer. They're the most arrogant gang in North America right now, but after today, they won't be able to be arrogant anymore. Why? Because you killed almost all of their main forces. Francis panicked when he thought of the more than 100 lives that had been lost. Any normal person would be terrified to have such a demon beside them. Now that they've lost a lot of power, Francis said. Their past enemies definitely won't let them go. There are so many gangs in New York. They'll probably be completely wiped out soon. Are you familiar with this? Were you in a gang before? I was a gangster more than a decade ago. I know a bit about this. Qin Zhao glanced at Francis. He was only in his 30s. A decade ago. That meant he'd been in the gang since he was a teenager. Just then, Qin Zhao saw two figures in front. He wasn't unfamiliar with one of them. It was Daly Moore. The other was also a woman. She was quite young. What were they doing on the street in the middle of the night? Chapter 1374. Dahlia Moore and Navat Singer stopped. They saw Qin Zhao and Francis in the car. Mr. Qin, why are you here? I should be the one asking you. Why are you here? I have something to do, Daly Moore said. The cemetery is up ahead, Qin Zhao said. It's not safe there. If you keep going there, you better be careful. With that, Qin Zhao told Francis to drive. Knotts glanced at the car's taillights and asked, Daly Moore, you know him? He's my dad's friend. From his tone, he seems to be from the spiritual world too. Yes, I became a witch because of him. He looks so weak, Knotts said. I can't sense any threat from him. Didn't you say that he's either ridiculously powerful or knows how to hide his aura? He's both, Daly Moore said. Him. I can't tell. My senses are much stronger than yours, but I can't sense anything special about him. Mr. Qin, who are those two? Witches, Qin Zhao said calmly. Francis didn't ask any more. He was quite against supernatural events and people now. Ever since Qin Zhao threatened him, he'd been very uneasy. Especially tonight, the uneasiness had reached its peak. Originally, he thought that once this matter was over, his emotions would calm down. But that wasn't the case. Francis's uneasiness continued. It's already over, but you still seem to be afraid. Qin Zhao glanced at Francis. Francis's expression was frozen. Usually, I won't kill ordinary people. Even if they are, most of them are from gangs or gangs. Of course, there are those who don't listen. Francis forced a smile and kept driving. Mr. Qin, there are really souls in the world, right? Yes. Is there hell? Yes. What about heaven? I don't know. The car reached Francis's house and he got off. Your house is inauspicious. Go somewhere else, Chen Zhao said and left. Francis was stunned. He looked up at his house and opened his mouth, his expression ugly. Originally, he didn't think there was any problem with his house. He had lived in it for a few years. He did not encounter any supernatural incidents. But now, hearing Chen Zhao's words, he didn't know what to do. If an ordinary person or a stranger said this, he would definitely spit on the other side. But it was Chen Zhao who said that. Chen Zhao was a real person from the supernatural world. Since he said it was inauspicious, then it must be true. What could he do if Chen Zhao didn't make himself clear? It would have been better if Chen Zhao hadn't mentioned it. After Chen Zhao did, Francis started imagining things. Standing in front of the door, he didn't know whether he should enter or not. Chen Zhao didn't sleep for the entire night. He was also worried about leaving Murphy in the wilderness. Just like their own children, their hearts were always a little uneasy. Chen Zhao didn't relax until Murphy and Rebecca came back in the morning. But after this night, Murphy and Rebecca's relationship had progressed again. At least Rebecca was living in the house Murphy rented in Mountain Hills. As for whether he was on base or not, Chen Zhao didn't need to worry about it. But a man and a woman living under the same roof. Chen Zhao didn't believe that they didn't do anything. It was just like how Chen Zhao and Fei Lai had been roommates in the beginning. Chen Zhao couldn't get over it back then. He didn't want to eat the grass near his nest. In the end, it only took them a little more than a month to completely get along. When Chen Zhao left China, he had broken up with his ex-girlfriend not long ago. His relationship was hurt too. Back then, Chen Zhao had planned to never get married. They only talked about romance and not love. It was just that no one could control their feelings. Now that he was with Fei Lai, it was more like family than love. Of course, this wasn't bad. Chen Zhao was very satisfied with his family. As for Murphy and Rebecca's future, Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered. They weren't his parents. He didn't need to worry about that. Mr. Chen, the factory is having a meeting today. We're going to discuss the price. Would you like to come and participate? No, you guys decide. Mr. Chen, right now, our brewery has 3 kinds of packaged beer. They're 580 milliliters cans, 650 milliliters cans, and 900 milliliters cans. I plan to price them at $3, $4, and $6 respectively. Do you think we need to negotiate the prices? Isn't that too expensive? Chen Zhao felt that the price was really high. At present, the price of the same amount of beer on the market was between $1 and $2, but the price in Denver was more than 3 times that. Would consumers really pay for such expensive beer? Chen Zhao was very doubtful. Mr. Chen, I came to this conclusion after testing the product. Almost every customer asked our salesman where they could buy this beer. At the same time, I also did a product comparison. Every time, I put 20 beers and our beer in front of 20 people and let them try it. They'll choose the beer they like the most. The probability of our beer being chosen is 95%, so I think we have the right to raise the price, Denver said confidently. Denver said confidently, our production capacity this year is 150,000 tons at most. I believe our beer will bring us great profits. Didn't you say that we're going to add another production line? This production line is still in testing. We're mainly using Kansas Stengel wheat, but there's no such wheat on the market anymore. If we want it, we'll have to wait until after the autumn harvest, so the second production line can only wait until after the autumn harvest. We have to buy enough wheat to start fermentation. Chen Zhao wasn't very confident. Such a high price was very risky. Mr. Chen, please trust my market judgment. Okay, I trust you. In the end, Chen Zhao decided to listen to Denver's pricing suggestion. There were risks, but he could bear it. But if he could open up the market, a high price would also mean a high return. 150,000 tons of beer was about 180 million liters. According to this price, 1 liter of beer would be around $7, and the sales would probably exceed $1 billion. After deducting the cost, business tax, and personal income tax, he could probably recover the cost in the first year and realize profits. He could make more than $200 million this year. Chapter 1375. The cost of 580 milliliters of beer on the market wouldn't exceed $1. So, according to Denver's high pricing, the profit would be very high. If Chen Zhao didn't take any profits this year and continued to invest in production, he could get rid of the tax. Of course, this was calculated based on the best sales. Because Dashin beer was new and only available in Mara supermarkets this year, it couldn't be sold out in a short time. Chen Zhao had to see how the first batch sold. Chen Zhao still needed to borrow money and invest in advertisements. No matter how good Dashin beer tasted, it would be hard to enter the market in a short time without enough advertising. If he let word of mouth grow, it would take at least 2 to 3 years to see results. Chen Zhao didn't have that much money to sustain losses for 2 to 3 years. By then, he would have to borrow from the bank. Beer had always been a high-profit industry. Chen Zhao's brewery's current production was less than 1/10 of those big brands. For example, Budweiser, which had the highest sales in the world, was also the most famous beer brand in the world. Its annual sales were 2.5 billion liters, and its revenue was over $50 billion. Its net profit was close to $8 billion. Compared to such a big international brand, Dashin beer was like a baby. On the first day of June, Dashin beer was officially available in Mara supermarkets. The advertisements also started. But Chen Zhao's mind was all on Fei Lai. There was less than a month until her due date. Chen Zhao didn't go out at all. Even when Stephen and Rasfa asked him to go out for a drink, he refused. Brazil's southwestern city, Nilmara, was at the edge of the Amazon rainforest. 1/3 of the city was connected to the rainforest. Further in was the town of New Bali. New Bali had a population of less than 10,000. Its main industry was tourism. Many of the people there were working as guides, mainly to lead the way for people entering the Amazon rainforest. However, most of the locals would only bring the tourists in for less than 10 kilometers before bringing them out. Beyond 10 kilometers, even the locals couldn't guarantee the tourists' safety. They knew the dangers of the rainforest better than outsiders. It was the most dangerous place in the world. Without a guide, ordinary tourists would lose their lives in minutes when they entered the tropical rainforest. This was definitely not a joke. 10 kilometers was because many people walked. This area was basically half open, so the danger was basically eliminated. However, no one could guarantee their safety if they went any deeper, unless they cut down all the trees. Apart from tourists, there were also explorers, scientists, and mercenaries in the New Bali town. Here, one could see all kinds of people walking on the streets. The natives were also asking the strangers if they needed a guide. When Klaus and the members of the lightning squad arrived at New Bali town, they all felt extremely tired. The temperature here was maintained at 35 degrees Celsius during the day. It was fine if it was just hot. Most importantly, the humidity was as high as 90%, and this was in the town. Once they entered the rainforest, the humidity would directly exceed 99%. What did that mean? Basically, if you stood in the rainforest for a minute, your face would be covered in water. Furthermore, he couldn't wear short-sleeved shirts and shorts. If he wore short-sleeved shirts and shorts, it was basically no different from committing suicide. Klaus, where are your friends? Let's look for it. Female, 1. 82 meters tall, it should be very obvious. Over there. The members of the lightning squad had sharp eyes and quickly found the person Klaus was talking about. Ciao Chica. Klaus waved at the woman. Klaus. Ciao Chica happily ran forward and gave Klaus a passionate hug. Ciao Chica had the common characteristics of Latin American beauties, but she wasn't as petite as the Latin beauties. Her physique and bones were both large, and she was about the same height and physique as Klaus. My God, your hand strength has increased again, Klaus teased. Actually, Ciao Chica's strength wasn't enough to make Klaus feel uncomfortable. These are. Ciao Chica turned to look at the members of the lightning squad. They are my brothers, Klaus said. Let's go, let's find a place to sit. After finding a place to sit, the lightning squad and Ciao Chica began to get to know each other. Ciao Chica joined the army at the same time as Klaus. In comparison, Klaus and the lightning squad met later. They were originally part of the border force, and were mainly responsible for overseas missions and border battles. But later, Klaus was transferred to the Marine Corps and even went to a real battlefield. After that, he entered the elite team of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department and became the leader of the Lightning Squad. After Ciao Chica and a few familiar comrades retired from the army, they became mercenaries again. All these years, Klaus had always kept in touch with Ciao Chica and the others, so their relationship hadn't faded. This time, when his old comrades were in trouble, the first person Ciao Chica asked for help was Klaus. Klaus didn't let him down. He came at the first moment and even brought the lightning squad with him. It was obvious that Klaus was a person who valued relationships. Ciao Chica, tell us the details. 10 days ago, we received a mission to protect an exploration team into the tropical rainforest. The specific destination was the Schickal region of the Amazon rainforest. Why didn't you go in? Klaus asked. I got dysentery, Ciao Chica said helplessly. It was the most common disease in the tropical rainforest or at the border. If it wasn't treated in time, it would be very dangerous, even life-threatening. So I was hospitalized and missed the mission. That's why I ended up in the hospital and missed the mission. After that, I became responsible for external communications. When the team entered Silas territory, which was 5 days ago, I received a distress message from the team. The one who contacted me was Kamalari. They seemed to have been attacked by the natives. Among them, Doran, Barker, and Laravizan were already dead. Now, there are only 4 of them left, and they are trapped somewhere. In the 3 days before you arrived, Kamalari contacted me many times. However, because the batteries they brought with them were running low, we agreed to contact each other at 6:00 in the evening every day. We completely lost contact the day before yesterday. Are you sure they are still alive? Klaus asked. This was a crucial question. If they were still alive, then the risk was worth it. If they were dead, then the risk was worthless. After all, even if they found them, they might not even find a complete corpse. Klaus had to think about the people who were still alive. There's an 80% chance that they're still alive. In our last contact, Kamalari explained the situation. They seemed to be trapped in an ancient building, but he couldn't tell us the exact location. They've brought with them a complete set of equipment, fresh water, medicine, and compressed food. Based on my estimation, if we exclude external environmental factors, they can hold on for at least 6 days. Klaus didn't hesitate. An 80% chance of survival was high enough. Chapter 1376. Ciao Chica, are you sure you want to go in with us? Klaus asked. Klaus, don't you believe in my abilities? Qiao Shika looked at Klaus with dissatisfaction. Nami is a woman too. If she can go in, why can't I? Nami turned her head. She was the only woman in the lightning squad. Nami had nothing to say about Qiao Shika comparing her to her. She couldn't tell Qiao Shika that she was stronger than him. Okay, I don't mean anything else, Klaus said. I just think that we need a contact person outside. If we run into trouble, someone can come and save us. That's easy, Qiao Shika said. I know someone here. He can be the contact person temporarily. Not long after, Qiao Shika found the person. He was a local native. He was only 1.6 meters tall and had dark skin, but his eyes looked very sharp. Klaus, let me introduce you. This is Moji. Hello, I'm Klaus. Klaus shook hands with Moji. Mr. Klaus, how may I be of service? If we don't come back after 15 days in the rainforest, you can call this number and help me explain the situation to them. Okay, that's easy. Moji nodded. The group of 7 entered the rainforest from the entrance. Klaus, who's that number? Qiao Shika asked curiously. Our boss, Klaus said. He can solve any problem. This is the Amazon rainforest, the most dangerous place in the world, Qiao Shika said. You don't need strength here, you need to be careful. Our boss is so powerful that he can ignore all danger, Nami said. Qiao Shika looked at Klaus and the other members of the lightning squad. They all had a look of faith in their eyes. But her rationality told her that this was wrong. The Amazon rainforest had welcomed countless people who thought they were invincible. However, no one who stepped into this primitive and mysterious land with such a mentality could walk out alive. This wasn't a war between humans. It was the ultimate test of humanity against nature. The dangers here came from all aspects. Animals, plants, and the climate and environment. For example, the most venomous animal in the world, the poison arrow frog. The venom of the poison arrow frog was so strong that it didn't need to enter the mouth or the bloodstream. As long as it came into contact with the skin, it could directly penetrate the skin. There was once a researcher who dripped a drop of poison dart frog secretion on the back of his hand. His hand felt like it was being burned, and he died after suffering for 3 days. Modern medicine could not do anything about it. If the poison of the poison dart frog came into contact with a human's wound, it would be even easier. It would only take 10 minutes. There were also all kinds of poisonous snakes, all kinds of deadly and disease-causing insects, all kinds of poisonous snakes, and all kinds of ferocious beasts. After entering the rainforest, the humidity in the air had increased significantly. The higher the humidity, the more pineal hormone secreted by the human body's pineal glands. The pineal hormone would cause the cells to become inactive, and the person would become listless, and powerless. At the same time, due to the high humidity, body heat could not be released, and heat stroke would occur. Prolonged heat stroke can cause brain death. It was not Qiao Shika's first time in the Amazon rainforest, but even though she had been there many times, she still could not get used to it. This was the zone with the most extreme humidity on Earth. They used 3 hours to walk past the safe zone and began to face the true nature of the rainforest. Just then, it started to rain cats and dogs. In the tropical rainforest, the rain was very frequent, and it was without any warning. In most cases, the rainfall was very small, maybe a few square kilometers or more than a dozen square kilometers, and there was no pattern to it. But the duration was very short, and the rainfall was very heavy. But this rain was very beneficial to the team. The washing of the rain made the air fresh, and at the same time, it took away the accumulated heat in their bodies. Phew! So comfortable. Klaus took off his hat and twisted the rainwater on his head. Of course, the rain also brought them some trouble, and the ground under their feet became muddy. Just then, a large river appeared in front of them. The Amazon River was the largest river in the world, and it had so many branches that satellites could not scan it clearly. Also, the changes in the Amazon River were very frequent, and the river changed its course almost every day. As long as there was enough water in a depression, it could form a river, and then it could connect to the main river. The river was about 30 meters wide, not very big, but the water was very turbulent and muddy, and they could not see the depth of the river. "Everyone, cut a tree branch, and we will cross the river," Klaus ordered. "Pay attention to what is in the water," Chao Shika reminded. "Chao Shika, you follow behind me," Klaus said. "I am more familiar with this place than you," Chao Shika said. "I will take the lead." Chao Shika was very dissatisfied with Klaus's arrangement of her in the middle of the team. She felt that she was qualified to stand in any position in the team. "It is just a river," Klaus said. "Also, I am the team leader now, so please listen to my orders." Chao Shika was helpless. Klaus had already used the tone of the team leader, so she had to obey. No matter the situation, soldiers had to obey the orders and arrangements of their superiors. The river was not as deep as they thought. The deepest part was less than 2 meters, and the mud on the riverbed was not thick, so it should be a branch that had changed course recently. Since it was a river that had changed course recently, the possibility of crocodiles could be ruled out. At the same time, the speed of the river could also rule out the possibility of water eels. Water eels would not be active in water where the river flowed too fast. They preferred slow-flowing river water or lurked in swamps. Because their bodies were too heavy, they were not good swimmers, and it was very likely that they would be washed away by the river. Everyone went ashore one by one, and suddenly Nami, who was at the back, screamed. Everyone immediately turned to look at Nami and saw her trembling in the water. Chao Shika's expression changed. Not good, she encountered an electric eel. Then, Nami raised her arm, and in her hand was an electric eel that was as thick as an arm and about 15 kilograms. "We have an extra meal tonight." "Ah, such a strong voltage." Chao Shika stared at Nami in astonishment. This was an adult electric eel, and its voltage could reach 800 volts. But Nami only twitched slightly, and there was no intense electric shock. Could it be that this woman has undergone electric shock training? Chapter 1377. Nami casually tossed the electric eel at them. Klaus's military knife flashed, and the electric eel's head was instantly cut off. It fell to the ground and rolled a few times before it stopped moving. Chao Shika looked at Klaus in surprise. What a fast speed, what an accurate blade. Feel around in the water again. Eat more tonight, Klaus said. Then, the other members of the lightning squad continued to feel around in the water. Chao Shika saw a member of the lightning squad. Without looking into the water, he stabbed the wooden stick in his hand into the water, and a catfish weighing more than 10 kilograms was lifted up. How did you do that? Chao Shika asked in surprise. As long as there's enough tactile training. The catfish swam past his feet, so he could judge in advance. His success rate is around 60%. Captain, it's not 60%. My current success rate is. The member stabbed the wooden stick into the water again, and 2 piranhas were skewered on the stick. 100%. All right, I know you're good, Klaus scolded with a smile. Suddenly, the military knife in Klaus's hand shot into the forest. Chao Shika looked at Klaus in confusion. Then she saw the military knife nail a lizard's head to a tree. Hiss, Chao Shika gasped. They were about 20 meters away, and the color of the lizard's body completely blended in with the dark gray of the tree. Plus, it was already a little dark. How could he hit it? Was it a coincidence? The lizard was 1 meter long, and its body was quite thick. Klaus walked up and picked up the lizard. Not bad, this is a caiman lizard. Caiman lizards were not related to caimans. They were called caiman lizards because they looked like crocodiles. This thing was an endangered species. If Klaus had seen it in public, he would probably have been sent to jail. But in this environment, they could not waste anything that could be eaten. Although they had brought compressed biscuits, they were emergency food, and they did not taste good. Compressed biscuits were high in calories, and they were easy to carry and store. The team did not plan to continue forward, and they set up camp. Xiao Shike was also getting to know each member of the lightning squad. Without a doubt, they were all elites. But they were not very familiar with the tropical rainforest. But their physical qualities were very outstanding. Moreover, all of them had exquisite skills. Nami will be on duty for the first half of the night, and I will be on duty for the second half of the night, Klaus said while eating. Xiao Shike glanced at Klaus. Klaus, it's too tiring to be on duty alone for half a night. No, they can. Klaus did not give Xiao Shike a chance to question him further. After dinner, everyone except Nami went into the tent. In such an extreme environment, it was impossible for them to find entertainment, and they could not afford to waste every second of rest. Xiao Shike slept until dawn. When she woke up, she smelled blood as soon as she stepped out of the tent. Something happened last night. Xiao Shike's heart tightened. He turned around and saw a few people sitting in front of the fire. A dismembered jaguar was hanging from a tree. Their camp was attacked last night. But when did this happen? Why was there no movement at all? A jaguar attacking the camp would definitely cause quite a commotion. Did he sleep too soundly? Damn it, I haven't been in a dangerous area for too long. I'm actually so lax. Xiao Shike, come and have breakfast. We should continue our journey after that. Give me a bowl of bone soup. I cooked it all night, Klaus said. Klaus, I'm sorry. I had no idea what happened last night. Xiao Shike felt that he had neglected his duty. Even if there were no casualties, it was completely irresponsible for him to sleep so soundly in such an environment. Hee hee. It's okay. I don't know either. Nami killed it. Klaus smiled. I only woke up when it was my turn to be on duty. Xiao Shike gasped again. Did Nami kill the jaguar alone? Nami, you didn't use a gun. I was afraid of disturbing your rest, Nami said calmly. Xiao Shike did not understand where Nami's confidence came from. This was not a medium-sized carnivore like a puma. Jaguars were large carnivores. At the same time, they were the most dangerous predators on the American continent. They even preyed on crocodiles. If they were to widen the distance and use a gun, Xiao Shike had a certain degree of confidence. But without a gun, Xiao Shike definitely did not dare to go against an adult jaguar. Nami was not tall. In fact, she could be considered small. She was only 1.61 meters tall. How could she dare to go against a 250-kilogram jaguar? Everyone started packing their bags and tents. In just 15 minutes, they packed everything and continued their journey. Klaus, is Nami the strongest in the team? Xiao Shike purposely widened the distance between the team and walked at the back with Klaus. However, the people in front had clear ears. They could all hear Xiao Shike's words. Of course, no one would laugh at Xiao Shike's question. Yes. She's very strong. Klaus smiled. At noon, it rained again. For the lightning squad, the rain came at the right time. But it was not good for Chao Shika. She did not have the superhuman constitution of the lightning squad. The rain made her a little cold. Fortunately, they had brought some medicine. Chen Zhao had made it for everyone in the society. It was quite effective. "Captain, there's a big river ahead," the people in front shouted. Klaus walked to the river and looked. It was at least 150 meters wide. The current was around 3 meters per second. It was not rapid. But the water could be more than 3 meters deep. Crocodiles. Klaus saw a few crocodiles lying on the shore a few hundred meters away. If there was one crocodile on the shore, there could be 10 in the water. What do we do? Cross the river on a raft? Chao Shika asked. No need. Klaus shook his head. Just swim past me. The others prepare for underwater combat. Chao Shika was dumbfounded. What underwater combat? They were facing crocodiles, not humans. How could they fight crocodiles underwater? Was Klaus crazy? But the problem was, why didn't anyone refute Klaus's orders? Chao Shika felt that this was suicide. Once surrounded by the crocodiles, none of them would survive. Let's go, Klaus said. We'll go underwater first. Just follow behind me. Don't worry about anything else. Chapter 1378. Halfway through, Chao Shika suddenly saw red blood floating on the surface of the water. Klaus, something happened, something happened. Something happened underwater. Keep swimming, don't look around. Klaus continued swimming in front. Chao Shika wanted to help, but she didn't know how to help in the water, so she could only continue swimming. Chao Shika followed Klaus to the other side. Chao Shika immediately raised her submachine gun and looked at the water nervously. Don't shoot randomly. It's not good if you hurt your own people, Klaus said calmly. Just then, Nami was the first to stand in the shallow water, but she was dragging something in her hand. A crocodile. It was a 3-meter-long crocodile. The crocodile wasn't dead, but Nami was grabbing its upper and lower jaws and dragging it to the shore. This scene completely subverted Chao Shika's worldview. This must be fake, right? This must have been prepared beforehand. Nami actually caught a crocodile alive in the water. Just then, another thing floated up. This time, it was a crocodile with its stomach turned upside down. However, this crocodile's stomach was completely cut open. Then another crocodile floated up, and another, and another. Then, the members of the lightning team came ashore one after another. No one was injured, and everyone was holding a military knife. Nami, why did you catch it alive? I want to eat crocodile tonight. If crocodile meat isn't processed in time, it will go bad in 3 hours, Nami said. Chao Shika was completely crazy. To eat crocodile meat tonight, they went into the water and caught a crocodile alive. Also, did these people really kill crocodiles underwater? There were 4 or 5 crocodiles that floated up, so it was possible that more crocodiles were washed away before they could float up. Other than Klaus, the 5 of them probably killed no less than 20 crocodiles, right? What was going on with these guys? Let it go, let it go. It's only noon. Are you planning to carry this 200-kilogram crocodile all the way? Klaus shouted. I'll carry it. I don't have to be on duty tonight anyway, Nami said in a defiant tone. Chao Shika felt that even if she carried this 200-kilogram crocodile, it would be a burden. At least 3 people would need to carry it, right? But reality was not what she thought. Nami found a rope and tied the crocodile's mouth. Then, she grabbed the crocodile and put it on her shoulder. Don't eat my crocodile meat if you dare, Nami said angrily. Forget it, I'll do it. He was the strongest in the team, more than twice as strong as Nami. Who were these people? A bunch of monsters. The way Chao Shika looked at them changed. Let's go. Let's continue forward. Klaus did not hesitate to release the crocodile. Chao Shika looked at Temmie's carrying a 200-kilogram crocodile and didn't feel tired at all. She even felt that he walked more easily than she did. He was still talking and laughing with his teammates. It wasn't until the evening that everyone found an empty space to rest. Chao Shika deeply felt that these people were truly monstrous existences. Not just Nami, but everyone. Klaus, I'm on duty tonight too, Chao Shika volunteered. Sure. You and Temmies will be responsible for the first half of the night. Rodman will be responsible for the second half. Chao Shika felt Klaus' discrimination again. Everyone else was on duty alone, but she had Temmies with her. No, more accurately, Temmies was with her. The big Temmies didn't care. Chao Shika, if you're tired at night, you can sleep first. Temmies was a bit stubborn. If it was someone else, they would never say this to Chao Shika. Chao Shika decided on the spot that she had to complete her duty tonight. After nightfall, everyone started to rest. Temmies and Chao Shika sat in front of the fire. Temmies, is everyone in your lightning team so strong? It's mainly because our boss's boss is strong. Is this the boss Klaus mentioned? Yes, the boss always says that if he's a lion, his subordinates can't be a flock of sheep, Temmies said. Is your boss on a mission somewhere else now? No, he hasn't been out recently. His girlfriend is about to give birth. Temmies suddenly frowned and stood up. Chao Shika's expression changed slightly. She saw specks of green light in the forest in front of her. Wolves! Wolves! Chao Shika immediately picked up her gun, intending to wake the others. Don't be nervous, Temmies said. You guard here. If a wolf comes, shoot. Don't leave the camp. But, Chao Shika wanted to refute Temmies, but Temmies had already strode forward and disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. Then, the howls of wolves came from the darkness. Chao Shika was very nervous. She kept staring into the darkness. Other than the sound, she couldn't see anything. She didn't know what was going on over there. Temmies is so strong. He'll be fine, Chao Shika comforted herself. But in such an environment, encountering a wolf pack was the most dangerous. Unlike the wolves in North America, most of North America was a relatively open area with a wider population. Wolf packs couldn't grow. But forest wolves were different. For example, the wolves in the Amazon rainforest were very large. They might even encounter a large wolf pack of 50 or 60. What should I do? Should I wake Klaus and the others? Suddenly, a wolf charged toward the camp. Chao Shika immediately fired. Da-da-da, the wolf ran for a few meters and fell in front of Chao Shika. Just then, a person came out of the tent. Klaus walked out. What happened? Wolves. Wolves. Temmies went over. I'm afraid. Oh, a wolf pack. Klaus found a glass of water and rinsed his mouth. Since you're up, let's have a midnight snack. Klaus, aren't you going to help Temmies? What for? Isn't he back? Chao Shika turned and saw that Temmies had returned. He was carrying a gray wolf that was more than 2 meters long. Just then, Rodman came out of the tent. That's great. We have a midnight snack when we wake up. Rodman also looked calm. It was as if Temmies had taken the initiative to attack the wolves. It was completely unimportant. Temmies, you didn't hurt yourself, did you? Chao Shika asked Temmies, who was covered in blood. Oh, no, this is wolf blood, Temmies said. Eat some roasted wolf meat and go rest. Temis, did you kill all the wolves just now? Rodman asked. Chapter 1379. 2 days. The Lightning Squad had only used 2 days to teach Xiao Shika what it meant to be at the top. Xiao Shika knew that Klaus was very powerful. Back then, Klaus had been their captain. But at that time, Klaus was only very powerful. Although they kept in touch, they were still separated for many years. From then on, Xiao Shika always felt that their team was a top team. But now, when he saw Klaus again, Xiao Shika suddenly realized that they seemed to be out of touch with the top. The Lightning Squad was the true top team. Every single member of the Lightning Squad was ridiculously strong. A 7-meter-long water-venomous serpent had wrapped itself around Klaus. The others were holding their stopwatches to bet on whether it would be 10 or 20 seconds before Klaus could escape. They had no intention of helping. Then Klaus bets himself for a minute while he fights the water bug. After that, Klaus held on for a minute before he calmly pulled out his military knife and chopped off the watergloom's head. They weren't adventuring in the jungle. They were playing. So far, at least, they have been playing. In the primeval forest, the water dragon and the god of death had the same meaning. Those who were entangled by the water serpent basically had one foot in the gates of hell. But Klaus was actually trying to compete in strength with a water gloom. Of course, to their team, this was just a small interlude. Everyone rested for half an hour at noon. Xiao Shika knew that everyone was taking care of her. In fact, she was the only one in the team who felt tired and could not walk. Up until now, Xiao Shika was the only one who had fired a gun. Most of the time, the Lightning Squad used their sabers to deal with trouble. When the break time was up, Klaus stood up and said, "Let's check the direction again." Nami held the locator, but it seemed to be interfered with. The numbers kept jumping. Nami frowned and switched to an ordinary compass. But the needle of the compass was also jumping randomly. "Captain, there's magnetic field interference here." In the primeval forest, positioning was very important. Once they lost the positioning of the machines, they could only rely on the stars to locate them. However, most of the time, they were covered by the towering trees and thick leaves. It was very difficult for them to see the sun. "Check if the communication device is working," Klaus said. "I can't receive the satellite signal. The radio equipment is also not working. Looks like we might be in trouble." Klaus said, "Continue forward for another 20 kilometers and see if we can get out of this interference zone." Suddenly, a wooden splinter was nailed into the tree in front of Klaus. Enemy attack. In just 0.1 seconds, Klaus had already pulled Xiao Shika, who was still in a daze, to the ground. "Temis, check your front left." The arrow came from that direction. In the direction that Klaus was pointing at, there were faint figures moving about. "Use firearms," Klaus said. Da-da-da, a figure fell from the treetops. It was an extremely primitive native with leaves draped over its body and a feathered crown on its head. It was less than 1.5 meters tall. "Woola, woola," then, a strange cry came from the forest. Dozens of figures rushed out of the forest, holding wooden spears or crudely made wooden bows. Some were even using blowpipes. "Cannibals. They're cannibals," Jozik shouted. She saw one of the primitive men holding the skull and hitting it with a wooden stick, making a sound. This seemed to be their battle song. The primitive people recklessly charged towards the troops. Free fire. It was a one-sided massacre. Of course, this battle itself was not a righteous one. Even with the restrictions of the international treaty, Klaus had no choice but to give the order to shoot the natives of these primitive tribes. Although their weapons were very primitive, they were all smeared with poison. Da-da-da, everyone opened fire, and the natives fell one after another. The battle lasted for a few minutes. Is anyone hurt? Captain, I'm hurt. Rodman's expression was a little ugly. His right arm was hanging limply with an arrow stuck in it. Poison dart frog poison. Jazik's expression was even uglier. This meant that Rodman could very likely die from the poison in a few minutes. Lie down. Klaus rushed to Rodman's side. Furlow, take out the life-saving medicine. Furlow immediately opened his backpack and quickly took out a bottle of black medicine and a syringe, tossing them to Klaus. Klaus caught the syringe and directly injected it into Rodman's arm. Wah! Rodman started to vomit out large mouthfuls of filth. Everyone knew how terrifying the poison of the poison dart frog was. Chen Zhao had said that the black medicine was a life-saving medicine, but they were not very confident. If one was heavily injured, poisoned, or seriously ill, they could all use the black medicine. Rodman kept vomiting. After vomiting out all the food, he started vomiting stomach acid. After vomiting, he started retching. Jazik was also very nervous. What surprised her was that more than 10 minutes had passed and Rodman was still alive. What was that medicine? Could it really cure the poison of the poison dart frog? At the same time, Klaus was also constantly squeezing Rodman's wound, only stopping when red blood flowed out of the wound. How is it? Rodman. If you're still conscious, answer me. Klaus patted Rodman's cheek. Captain. If you're gentler, I'll answer you. Whoosh, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that Rodman could joke. His tone was weak, but it was still coherent. Nami, Temis, go check the bodies of the natives. Be careful not to fake death. After checking, they realized that all the natives were dead. However, they could not stay here for long. Even though Rodman was very weak now, they had to find another place to rest. They had to find a place with an open field of vision. Otherwise, they would be easily attacked again. This is a large tribe. After all, there are less than 100,000 primitive natives in the entire Amazon rainforest. Usually, a tribe has no more than 100 people. However, this cannibal tribe actually sent dozens of people to attack us. This can only mean that there are more than 1,000 people in the tribe. A primitive tribe with more than 1,000 people in the Amazon rainforest? Not yet, Jazik said with a serious expression. Qiao Shikif said with a serious expression, there's another possibility. Those who found them have already been eaten by them. I think it's because of the magnetic field nearby. That's why they can hide here for so long without being discovered. Chapter 1380. They didn't know if the place they chose was safe. Rodman hadn't recovered from his injuries yet. Even with the black potion, Rodman had been poisoned by the poison of the poison dart frog. It was a miracle that he didn't die. Qiao Shike was even more worried about her companion. She thought it was just an ordinary native tribe. But now, it seemed that her companion had encountered this ogre tribe. This ogre tribe was not only powerful, but also barbaric. It had to be known that there were many primitive tribes left, and some of them were actually ogre tribes. But after coming into contact with modern human civilization, these tribes had given up on their traditions. But now, they had encountered a tribe that cut off all contact with human society. This meant that they couldn't communicate with them. Under the night sky, Klaus said, I've decided to explore tonight. Klaus, isn't this too risky? Exploring at night is the best choice, Klaus replied calmly. No matter how barbaric and bloodthirsty they are still humans, so the night is more advantageous for us. Originally, Klaus planned to have Qiao Shike stay in the camp and have Nami stay with her. But Qiao Shike wasn't happy about this, so Klaus decided to work together. Xiao Shika wasn't a child after all. She had rich combat experience. But in the past 2 or 3 days, Xiao Shika had always compared herself to the members of the lightning team, which hurt her confidence. In fact, she wasn't weak at all. They started to look for traces of the ogres. Such a large ogre tribe would leave more obvious traces than the 7 of them. So Klaus quickly found traces of the ogre tribe. There's drumming in front. The group parted the dense thickets and saw an Inca pyramid in front of them. The pyramid was about 100 meters tall, like a giant Lego toy. It was hard to imagine that it was built by a group of primitive people. A large number of ogres gathered in front of the pyramid. They danced to the sound of the drumming. To be honest, this was a group of natives with no musical talent. In comparison, they were more talented when it came to eating. Among the natives, there were 4 steaming cauldrons. But when they saw the food in the 4 cauldrons, their faces turned green. There were more than 10 people in the 4 cauldrons, both men and women. At this moment, they had already lost their lives. They were like livestock that had their stomachs cut open and their innards cleaned out. Ugh, everyone felt nauseous. This was a resistance that came from the genetic depths of modern humans. Humans do not eat their own kind or similar species because they know that eating their own kind is very risky. Putting aside emotions and ethics, humans were definitely unable to accept their own kind. Even for primates, humans were very resistant to it. This was because almost all primates would get the right disease and transmit it to humans. This was a warning from the genes. Xiao Shika's face was already covered in tears because she saw a familiar face. However, she still kept her wits about her and knew that she couldn't let her act willfully at this time. Klaus and the Lightning Squad were also her comrades. Then, an even more cruel scene appeared in front of them. Even the iron-willed members of the Lightning Squad were avoiding this scene. However, they also discovered a strange phenomenon. In the process of cannibalism, all the members of the cannibal tribe participated, including the babies. As for the babies and children, they didn't have parents to lead them. They were more like the cubs of a wolf pack, selectively eating their own food. Did you guys notice something strange? Klaus said in a low voice. Those brats who managed to snatch the food, they have obvious growth. They're growing too fast. They're starting to go back to their nests to rest. The cannibals started to enter the pyramid. The entire pyramid was like a beehive. Only a small number of cannibals were left guarding the outside of the pyramid. This was an opportunity. A chance for them to sneak into the pyramid. Although the cannibals outside were patrolling, there were many loopholes. After silently killing 2 cannibals, the group came to the side of the pyramid. Klaus suddenly stopped Xiao Shika. Xiao Shika, this might be a trap. What? I don't know, but I feel that the situation is different from what I expected. I still don't understand. Leave this place now and follow the path we took to get here. Wait at the campsite we stayed at before. If we don't come back before dawn, leave the forest immediately and call our boss's phone number. Ask our boss to save us. What? You want me to run away alone? Xiao Shika's expression was very ugly. Klaus wanted her to be a deserter. Xiao Shika, you should understand that if everything goes well, we have a chance to find the people and bring them back. It doesn't matter whether you're here or not. But if things don't go well, I'm afraid we have to choose the backup plan. If we wait for 15 days according to the original plan, I'm afraid we won't last that long. So you're our hope. Klaus looked at Xiao Shika seriously. Xiao Shika looked up at Klaus. Must I leave? Because we're not sure, Klaus said. Klaus said, you've seen the strength of Lightning Team. We don't have the confidence, so we have to be careful and prepare this backup plan. We cleared most of the dangers along the way, so it won't be hard for you to walk out of the forest. Xiao Shika was silent for a while and finally agreed to Klaus's suggestion. She had no reason to stay. Klaus had said that they had reinforcements, and they were strong. Each of them was stronger than her. If their enemies couldn't withstand a single blow, then she could choose to stay and enjoy the joy of victory with everyone. But if they were in trouble, then Xiao Shika had to shoulder her responsibility. Her duty wasn't to fight, but to ask for help. Later, no matter what kind of battle happens, don't come in. All you have to do is say wait patiently. Chapter 1381. Xiao Shika didn't leave immediately. Instead, she hid in the bushes and observed the situation. The battle inside the pyramid soon started. First, there were intense gunshots and explosions. Xiao Shika was hesitant. After all, she was the one who found Klaus. But now, Klaus and the lightning team stayed while she left. This was very immoral. However, she also knew that she would only be a burden if she stayed. She wouldn't be effective. But Klaus and the others didn't mind. Did you guys realize that this place is very similar to the Crypt Demon's Nest? Not just similar, Nami said. It's exactly the same. They were already very familiar with the Crypt Demon's Nest. Because of Chen Zhao and the Crypt Demons, they often went in and out of the nest. The pyramid of the Crypt Demon's Nest was exactly the same as the one before them. However, the pyramid of the cannibals was much smaller than the Crypt Demon's pyramid. If the specifications and structure are the same, Klaus said in confusion. This pyramid should be bigger than the one we saw. Just then, a group of cannibals charged out. Nami accurately threw a grenade into the group of cannibals. Boom! Instantly, all the cannibals were annihilated. However, they didn't have a lot of ammo. After all, they couldn't carry too much ammo. Therefore, every bullet and grenade they had was extremely precious. Once they ran out of ammo, they wouldn't lose the ability to fight. Instead, it would put them in danger. In the end, they were here to save people. It wasn't a sacrifice. Although there was a famous movie in Hollywood, Saving the Soldiers, was very great and touching. But Klaus definitely wouldn't use his subordinates' lives to save friends. All their efforts now were based on ensuring their own safety. If Kamolari is in the Crypt Demon's Nest now, where do you think he'll hide if he wants to stay alive? Klaus made a guess. It's definitely impossible up there, Nami said. The higher up, the smaller the space and the more Crypt Demons there will be, so he can only be down there. Right, down there. Klaus suddenly thought of a possibility. If this pyramid and the Crypt Fiend's pyramid are products of the same era, then there's no reason for the two to have such a huge difference in specifications. The same design should have the same specifications, right? So can we think that this cannibal pyramid actually has a lower layer, but because of tens of thousands of years, the lower layer has sunk into the ground? Left. I remember the lower level of the Crypt Demon pyramid is in that direction. Nami said, there's a secret door over there. When I went to the Crypt Demon lair last time, I personally operated it. That means the cannibals don't know the way to the lower levels, Klaus said. It's more likely that the cannibals weren't the ones who built the pyramids. They might have taken over the pyramids. After exterminating a group of cannibals, Nami controlled the mechanism and opened the passage. Just as Klaus had guessed, the cannibals were completely unaware of the existence of this mechanism and the passage. After everyone entered the tunnel, Nami closed the tunnel again. At this moment, everyone heard a sound of movement. Klaus gestured for everyone to switch off the light. It was the footsteps of a man, not a cannibal. He should be about the same height as Temmie's. But he felt a little weak. This person had only approached after hearing the noise. Suddenly, the the man felt a heavy blow on his face. Then, a strong hand grabbed him and pressed him against the wall. "Ah! Don't eat me! Don't eat me!" The man screamed in terror. "Jim! Is that Jim?" Klaus asked. "Then, you're not cannibals? Who are you talking about?" Jim asked in terror. He didn't recognize Klaus' voice. "Who's me?" "I'm talking about Klaus." Klaus turned on the light. Jim stared at Klaus, stunned. "Klaus. That's Klaus. Why are you here?" "Josico asked me to save you," Klaus said. "Great, you said you were going to save me. I've had enough of this place. The darkness, emptiness, despair, and hunger. Do you know how I survived these days? I could only catch rats to eat." Jim cried tears of joy. He was so excited that he was finally saved. "Where's Kamolari?" "Him. He was captured on the first day we found this place. He should have been eaten by the cannibals long ago." "No, Josico said that she's been communicating with Kamolari for the past few days." "That's impossible," Jim shouted. "I saw Kamolari being captured by the cannibals with my own eyes." For a moment, the problem became complicated. Of course, there was a simple explanation. Was Josico lying to them? But emotionally, they didn't believe that Josico was lying to them. Because betrayal was the most intolerable thing in the world. But now wasn't the time to make a conclusion. "Captain, don't be suspicious of Josico. She doesn't have the motive," Nami said. "Are you sure?" "Now there are three possibilities. One is that Mr. Jim is lying." I'm not lying." "Of course, this possibility is the lowest," Nami said. "The second possibility is what everyone guessed. Josico is the real culprit, but I think this possibility is very low. I don't think Josico is lying." "Why?" "Because of the third possibility," Nami said. "After seeing the cannibals here, I've been guessing. Actually, I suspected Josico before." "You suspected Chao Shika before?" "That's right. I had my doubts until I met Mr. Jim." "Then why didn't you tell us?" "Because it wasn't necessary," Nami said disapprovingly. "First, I wasn't sure if I was right. Second, even if she really was the traitor and contacted our president, she would be the one in trouble. Of course, after seeing Mr. Jim and hearing about the situation here, I'm even more sure that Josico isn't the traitor. She only said that she was tricked." "What exactly happened?" Everyone couldn't help but ask. "There's no traitor." Chapter 1382. First of all, I thought about a problem. Such a large area of magnetic field interference, I originally thought that it was natural, but the natural magnetic field would not have such a strong electromagnetic reaction. Even the sabers we carry are magnetized, so I suspect that it is a man-made strong magnetic field, Nami said. Everyone was in a trance. They didn't notice this. And they had been to some special areas before, where strong magnetic fields also occurred. So they didn't take it to heart. Besides, we've been walking for 2.5 days, and the nearest populated place is no more than 150 kilometers away. It's impossible for these cannibals to be so close and completely isolated from the world. So I suspect that someone has already discovered this place, and even has some kind of connection with the cannibals to help them hide this secret. Maybe this person is the real culprit behind all this, and someone deliberately led you here. At the same time, after they caught Kamal Ali, they didn't kill him immediately, but used him to send a message to Chao Shika, asking her to find more prey. Nami paused and said, "There's another important reason why I said that Chao Shika is not a suspect. This place is surrounded by a magnetic field, and radio and satellite phones can't be used. If Xiao Shika arranged all this, why would she set up such an obvious trap? It can only be because she doesn't know the situation here at all. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed that they had fallen into a trap. But after hearing that Xiao Shika was not a suspect, everyone was relieved. After all, everyone got along well with Xiao Shika, and they had a good impression of her. They didn't want someone they had been getting along well with to be an enemy. There's another piece of evidence. I found human bones outside that were discarded after being eaten. Many of them were 30 or 40 years old, but there were no bones older than 30 years old. This means that the cannibals may have only appeared here 30 or 40 years ago. Nami continued, it's possible that someone moved them here, and then attracted explorers and adventurers from the outside world to get enough food to feed the cannibals. New Bali Town, which is the closest to this place, is a gathering place for mercenaries and explorers, and it's full of illegal immigrants. Even if the cannibals disappear, the government won't notice them. However, their complicated interpersonal relationships can attract more outsiders, and the real culprit behind the scenes will lure people in. Jim's scalp went numb. In other words, we were all lured in here to be meat for the cannibals. You could say that. Then what should we do? Klaus, can you take me out? Let's wait, Klaus said helplessly. I hope Xiao Shika can leave the forest safely. She will definitely be able to leave safely. Nami said, we've eliminated all the dangers along the way. There won't be anything that can pose too much of a threat to her in the short term. Secondly, whether she's the real culprit or not, she can leave safely. If she's not, then the real culprit hopes that she can attract more people. If she is, it'll be even easier for her to leave. Klaus, why aren't you guys nervous at all? Even if Xiao Shika can leave safely, she'll only attract more people here, and it won't change our situation at all. Maybe I need to worry about other things, but there's no need to worry about this at all. Just stay here for a few days. Add some powder from demon bones, Samantha, add some demon blood, Kasima, scales of deep-sea staghorn fish, Sihara. Morid kept chanting incantations in the laboratory, adding every ingredient with extreme care. In front of Morid, there was a container. In addition to various magic materials, there was also a green plant in the middle of the container. With the addition of various magic materials and Morid chanting an incantation, the turquoise plant began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. When it reached 30 centimeters, it withered, leaving only a seed floating in the liquid. But it repeated the process again. Germination, growth, wither, and so on. Moore leaned against the window, watching Morid's experiment in the laboratory. He was Morid's best friend in the association, and could be considered Morid's little follower. He admired Morid for becoming the second person to pass the first level of the Tower of Trials other than the association's Big Three. Ever since Morid achieved this, he had been working even harder. He put more energy into training, improving magic plants, and improving his own strength. Ha! I did it, Morid suddenly shouted excitedly. The original emerald green plant had turned into a silvery white plant that was several meters tall. There were a dozen fist-sized white fruits hanging on the silver white plant. Morid, what are you cultivating now? Hand of Iago. I know. In Norse mythology, Iago is the god of the forest. But what effect does this hand of Iago have? In Norse mythology, Iago is the son of the goddess of the four seasons. He controls the elements of the four seasons and herds all the forests in the world. The hand of Iago I made is the winter banisher. Morid plucked a white fruit from the silver white plant and peeled it, revealing the seeds inside. Let me see the effect. Go outside. Morid put away all the fruits. He had spent a whole 3 months to make them. He had spent about $300,000 on research and experiments, so Morid did not dare to waste anything. Each fruit had about 100 seeds, and more helped to harvest the seeds. The two came to an empty space outside. Morid took out a seed and chanted an incantation. The seed fell to the ground. Cold sweat began to appear on Morid's forehead. The seed quickly sprouted, and soon grew to a height of nearly 5 meters. But the tree did not bear fruit. But the temperature around it began to plummet. The treetops swayed gently, and snow began to fall. A few meters around it was covered in a layer of frost. Then, 3 snowmen stood up from the snow. "What's the use of these 3 snowmen? They look so weak," Moore said, puzzled. The 3 snowmen shook, and the snow fell, turning into 3 ice crystal people. Chapter 1383. The 3 winter exiles had ice bodies and weren't afraid of death. They weren't alive. They were formed by gathering frost. Morid only said that he had a rough estimate of his magic power. If he ate Igo's hand, he would need a lot of magic power. With his magic power, he could only release 10 seeds at once. Just then, Chen Zhao's car drove into the headquarters. Morid and Moore saw Chen Zhao and immediately went to greet him. "President, why are you here?" Morid asked. "Who wants to go to the Amazon rainforest?" Chen Zhao asked. "Why are we going to the rainforest?" Mo Air asked confusedly. "To play and visit Klaus and the others." Not long ago, Chen Zhao had received a call from Brazil. "The Amazon." "I'll go," Morid said. "There are many magic plants in the Amazon. We can go there and find some seeds." "I'll go too," Moore said. Chen Zhao entered the association again and asked the people there. Only Jolanash wanted to go. She didn't want to miss all the fighting opportunities. As for the others, they either had something else to do or didn't want to go. Thus, only Morid, Moore, and Jolanash followed Chen Zhao. The 4 hurried to Brazil. When they landed, a tall woman greeted them. "Hi, I'm Chao Shika. You're the companions that Klaus mentioned." Chao Shika wondered if she'd picked up the wrong person or said the wrong person. Chen Zhao was dressed in colorful clothes. He wore a straw hat and shorts and looked like he was here for a vacation. There were also 3 people behind him. The oldest was probably in his early 20s and the other was a teenager. Were they really here for a vacation? Yeah. Chen Zhao nodded. "What's Klaus' situation now?" Chao Shika told him the whole story. "Cannibals. I've never seen cannibals before. I made the right choice." Moore was like a big kid. His face was filled with joy. Chao Shika was still full of doubts. Could this 4-man team really save Klaus and the others? "Do you know what delicacies Brazil has?" Chen Zhao asked. Chao Shika was speechless. "I don't know," Chao Shika said, a bit angry. She felt that Klaus had trusted the wrong person. "Guild leader, after we rescue Klaus, how about we play here for a few days? You guys have fun, I'm going back." Feilai had to go into labor less than 20 days after giving birth. If there was any premature labor, she might miss it. Therefore, Chen Zhao actually didn't want to go far. If not for saving people, he wouldn't even want to come to Brazil. It took nearly a day to get from the airport to Nilmara City, and more than half a day to drive to New Bari town. "Mr. Chen, what do you need to prepare?" "Take this opportunity to prepare. We'll be entering the rainforest tomorrow." "I don't need anything. What do you 3 need?" Chen Zhao looked at Morid, Moore, and Jolanash. "I don't need anything." Chao Shika was completely speechless. She had peeked at their luggage. They didn't bring any equipment for jungle exploration. Entering the tropical rainforest like this would be suicide. Mr. Chen, the Amazon rainforest is the most dangerous place in the world. Oh, I know. Chen Zhao nodded. Let's go for a walk. Qiao Shike was about to go crazy. Were they really here for a vacation? Guild leader, I found online that there's a very famous Brazilian barbecue restaurant. Let's go there. Okay. Chen Zhao looked at Qiao Shike. Miss Qiao Shike, let's go together. Qiao Shike forced a smile. No, I still need to prepare equipment for tomorrow's rainforest. Qiao Shike was subtly reminding Chen Zhao. However, Chen Zhao and the others didn't seem to understand what Qiao Shike was implying. They were still excitedly thinking about where to eat and play later. Qiao Shike didn't follow Chen Zhao out. Chen Zhao brought Moore, and Jolanash to the barbecue restaurant. There were quite a lot of people in the restaurant. There were even a dozen or so people gathered together, talking about something. Just then, a white-bearded old man walked over. Guys, you're here to play, right? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Let me introduce myself. I'm Naba. I'm the best guide here. If you want to enter the rainforest, I can take you to see the true face of the rainforest. Naba said, do you want to join my team? My fees are very cheap. I'll leave when we have 20 people. Thanks, but no need. We have our own guide. Normal guides can only take you 10 kilometers into the rainforest at most, but I can take you deeper. Don't you want to see the real side of the Amazon rainforest? You must have come from very far away. Forget it, Chen Zhao rejected again. We have our own plans. Are you really not going to consider it? Look at me. I've already found a dozen. If everything goes well, we'll leave tomorrow. Chen Zhao still shook his head. The rainforest is so dangerous. I don't think it's interesting to go deep. Alright, I wish you all a good time. Nobis said with a mocking tone and a bit of displeasure. The barbecue shop assistant served the barbecue meat to the four of them. The most famous dish here was the roasted wild goat. Looking at the aromatic roasted meat, the four of them could not help but feel hungry. The four of them were satisfied. When they walked out of the restaurant, they saw Qiao Shike walk over. Miss Qiao Shike, do you need our help? Chen Zhao saw that Qiao Shike had bought a lot of things. No. Qiao Shike turned to leave with a dark expression. After a few steps, she stopped and turned to look at Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, I hope you can be responsible for your lives. Of course. I'm very careful with my life. Qiao Shike hoped that her warning would have some effect on the four. Unfortunately, she overestimated Chen Zhao's group. Chen Zhao's group continued to eat and play. They didn't care about the itinerary at all. Other than asking about the situation at the beginning, Chen Zhao didn't ask anymore. Qiao Shike even suspected that Chen Zhao had forgotten the purpose of his trip. The next day, Chen Zhao appeared before Qiao Shike in his colorful short-sleeved shirt, shorts, and a straw hat. Chapter 1384. The four were all empty-handed. Then they went into the rainforest. Qiao Shike couldn't stop them and could only follow behind. He thought to himself that after they suffered a little, he would chase them away. She would go save people alone. Seeing how easy it was for the four of them while she had to carry dozens of kilograms, Qiao Shike was even more annoyed. Do you want me to help you? Chen Zhao asked. No need, Qiao Shike said angrily. Qiao Shike said angrily. These things were necessary, and she did not dare to give them to these four unreliable reinforcements. Mr. Chen, do you know that you're wearing such revealing clothes? Most of your skin is exposed. You might be attacked by poisonous insects or snakes. It's fine. I know. Fine. Knew what was going on. Qiao Shike couldn't tell, but Chen Zhao didn't. Chen Zhao had already made all the mistakes one could make in the rainforest. First of all, he had to wear thick clothes when he entered the rainforest. Otherwise, the insects and snakes could teach him a lesson. Second was his equipment. He didn't even bring any fresh water. He didn't even bring a water bottle. This was even worse. He also didn't have any weapons like a military knife to protect himself. Looking at Morid, Moor, and Jalanash, the three of them also didn't bring anything. Morid was still searching everywhere. Chen Zhao didn't know what he was looking for. If he was unlucky, a poisonous snake might crawl out of the bushes and kill him. After walking for 2 hours, Qiao Shike was already panting. Chen Zhao and the other three were still full of energy. I'll do it. Chen Zhao saw that Qiao Shike really couldn't walk anymore. After all, she was carrying such heavy things in such a harsh environment. Qiao Shike was also a woman. Chen Zhao didn't discriminate against women. Women's stamina was definitely not as good as men's. It was already very rare for Qiao Shike to be able to carry heavy things for 2 hours. Qiao Shike thought for a moment and didn't insist. If she kept forcing herself, she might collapse from exhaustion. But she realized that Chen Zhao's stamina was very good. He was carrying dozens of kilograms of things but didn't feel tired at all. Do you want beer? Chen Zhao asked. Beer? Where did you get the beer? Qiao Shike asked in confusion. She didn't bring any beer, and the four of them were empty-handed. Where would they get beer? Moreover, what was the difference between drinking in the Amazon rainforest and committing suicide? Before Qiao could figure it out, Chen Zhao had already taken out a beer. Qiao Shike gulped. Clean fresh water was not easy to find in a tropical rainforest. Usually, one had to find a flowing river before they could store water. But Chen Zhao was actually drinking beer here. Beer is taboo in the rainforest. Other than the fact that beer contained alcohol, it could cause confusion in one's mind. It was also because beer could accelerate the body circulation. Simply put, drinking a can of beer could cause excessive water loss. But watching others drink while not being able to drink was even more painful. Qiao Shike gulped a few times, but finally nodded. Give me a can. Chen Zhao tossed him a can of beer. President, I want one too, Morid said. Me too, said Moor, you can't drink. You're not an adult yet. Mr. Chen, when did you bring beer? Qiao Shike was really curious. Then Qiao Shike took a huge gulp. The beer was saying that it was too delicious. Qiao Shike felt her spirits rise. She wasn't drunk at all. At noon, the five found a place to sit down. Here, food. Qiao Shike saw what Chen Zhao had tossed over. When she caught it, she realized that it was a piece of barbecued meat wrapped in tin foil. Qiao Shike was confused. Where did this come from? Qiao Shike was confused, but Chen Zhao clearly didn't plan on answering her. After eating and drinking, Qiao Shike was satisfied. This was probably her first time entering a rainforest so easily. Just as they were about to stand up, a jaguar blocked their way. Qiao Shike immediately took out her gun and pointed it at the jaguar. At the same time, Qiao Shike was also observing Chen Zhao's group. If they were really as strong as Klaus said, she probably wouldn't have to use a gun. This was also a chance for her to evaluate Chen Zhao's group. Chen Zhao looked at the jaguar and then walked toward it. The jaguar took 2 steps back, but it still stared at them. Chen Zhao didn't plan on attacking. Instead, he stood before the jaguar and said, "Little guy, if you don't run, we'll eat you." Chen Zhao understood animal language. To others, it sounded like human language, but in reality, beasts could understand it too. The jaguar bristled. It turned around and ran. Not only did the jaguar understand Chen Zhao's words, but it also sensed the dangerous aura from Chen Zhao. Beast senses were much stronger than humans. Chen Zhao only revealed a bit of his aura and it was already enough to frighten the jaguar. Qiao Shike stood behind him and looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. So this guy is a zoologist. That's why he's so fearless. But can a zoologist scare a beast away with just a threat? Not long after, they came to a river. Qiao Shike had led them through this path before. She'd already gone through it once. So, she was sure that this path was safer. Of course, some dangers couldn't be eliminated. It was possible that after they passed by, another wild beast would appear and occupy this place. These were all uncertain factors. Thankfully, they didn't encounter any danger after crossing. Ha! Moritz suddenly yelled in joy. Found it, I found it. What did you find? Qiao Shike saw that Moritz was holding something that looked like a walnut. It's called a super exploding fruit. I know exploding fruits. What's a super exploding fruit? Is it stronger than exploding fruits? There were many plants in the Amazon rainforest that could explode, such as exploding fruits or exploding trees. But there weren't any that could really threaten humans. It can explode. The flesh of this super exploding fruit contains a lot of glycerin and phosphor. Once there's a collision or shock, the originally stable fruit will explode. There are also a lot of seeds inside, which will fly everywhere with the explosion. This is how the super exploding fruit is sown. Moritz wasn't a botanist, but he was an emissary of nature. His knowledge of plants might not be less than a botanist's. Qiao Shike thought that this guy was a botanist. What's the use of this? Chapter 1385. Qiao Shike was completely speechless about Chen Zhao's group. They had all dared to put their feet into the bushes when they were defenseless. For example, they had just passed a swamp. What was most common in swamps? Poisonous snakes, of course. According to the research of authorities, there were 4 poisonous snakes per square meter in the swamps of the Amazon rainforest. Such a high ratio made explorers shy away from the swamps of the Amazon rainforest. If the Amazon rainforest was the most dangerous place on Earth, then the swamp here was the most dangerous place in the Amazon rainforest. Other than poisonous snakes, there were also many crocodiles, reticulated pythons, and poisonous insects. When Qiao Shike walked through the swamp, she had to use a rubber band to tighten her pants. However, Chen Zhao's group completely ignored the dangerous environment. However, the result shocked Qiao Shike. The 4 of them walked through the swamp unscathed. What confused Qiao Shike the most was that they had clearly come empty-handed. But it didn't matter if it was beer, drinks, or food. As long as someone needed it, Chen Zhao could take it out. This made Qiao Shike feel very awkward. She even had a water bottle hanging on her waist. She didn't know if she should throw it away. This beer is so good. Where can I buy it? I invested in a brewery to produce it. You can only buy it in Mara supermarket in America. You invest. Are you rich? He's quite rich. Chen Zhao shrugged. Then why are you doing something so dangerous? In Qiao Shike's opinion, rich people wouldn't participate in something so dangerous. Moreover, Qiao Shike's own idea was to wait until she had saved enough money, then she planned to quit and enjoy life. What do you mean by danger? Soon, the sky began to darken. They had to stop at 4 in the afternoon to spend the night in the rainforest. If they were too late, they might not be able to finish building the tent even after dark. There's only one tent. What do we do tonight? Don't be naive enough to think that you could build a temporary shelter in the rainforest. You wouldn't even know when a snake would sneak in. Most of the so-called wilderness survival lessons on TV couldn't be used here. Xiao Shike did not dare to say that she was an expert, but at least she had dabbled in it. In the rainforest, the demand for a tent was even higher than food. If he slept on the ground, it was even more undesirable. Sleeping on the ground was equivalent to throwing a piece of meat on the ground. Tent. I do. Chen Zhao took out 4 more tents. Xiao Shike's eyes almost popped out. Where the hell did this guy hide the thing? Also, these 3 tents were all high-class tents, and each tent cost tens of thousands of dollars. The key was not the price of these 3 tents, but the fact that each of these 3 tents weighed tens of kilograms. Anything else? Xiao Shike didn't want to sleep in his own tent. Yes. Where did you hide it? Are you a magician? Xiao Shike was very curious. Ha. Yeah, I'm a magician, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. So that's how it is. You weren't unprepared, but you hid it somewhere I couldn't see. It looked magical, but Josiko could only think of Chen Zhao as a magician. There was no other explanation. Other than that, is there anything else? Our president's stuff can be used to hold a party here, Moore said proudly. Come, let's eat and play tonight. Chen Zhao took out 2 boxes of beer. This isn't appropriate. How do we arrange for tonight's watch? Xiao Shike looked at Chen Zhao, troubled. After an entire day of tiredness, Xiao Shike obviously wanted to eat and drink tonight. But her rationality told her that now was definitely not the time to fall. Don't worry. You don't need to watch tonight. Chen Zhao casually tossed a can of beer to Xiao Shike. Xiao Shike finally convinced herself. More accurately, she gave up on her principles. He was someone Klaus trusted. He definitely had a way. It had to be like this. But why couldn't she get drunk on this beer? Just then, there was a sudden commotion in the darkness. Xiao Shike immediately tensed up. Beasts? Or cannibals? Just as Xiao Shike was about to raise her weapon, Chen Zhao shook his head. Not enemies. As soon as he said that, almost 20 people walked out of the darkness. The leader was Nabal and the tourists he'd brought into the rainforest. However, they seemed to be in a sorry state, and all of them looked listless. Xiao Shike looked at these people and quietly hid his submachine gun. These tourists were already regretting coming here. The adventure they were looking forward to wasn't as perfect as they had imagined. This was actually a journey of suffering and torment. It was impossible for people in normal society to adapt to such an environment. According to the original plan, they should have reached the designated campsite by now, but in reality, they were only halfway there. As a result, they had nothing to eat, nothing to drink, and even nowhere to live. There are people here. There's food, and there's even beer. That's great. This is our camp, right? When Naba walked over, he realized that it was Chen Zhao and the others. How come it's you guys? Naba looked at Chen Zhao in shock. Yesterday, he invited Chen Zhao and the others to join his team, but Chen Zhao rejected. Who would have thought that they would actually come in by themselves today? Moreover, they were living a much more comfortable life than him. Although Bonaparte claimed that he was a professional leader. But in fact, this was the first time he had done something so risky. He had entered the Amazon rainforest many times with professional teams, so he thought that he had the ability to lead a team. However, compared to a professional team, leading a group of ordinary people into the rainforest was completely different. Only now did he realize that he had been too rash. Sir, we need food, water, and tents. Narrowing his eyes, Naba looked at Chen Zhao. So what? What does that have to do with me? Chen Zhao stood up. Nabe's intention was too obvious. He wanted to use their advantage in numbers to threaten Chen Zhao's group. Sir, please consider international humane standards. Many of us are already dehydrated. I can give you some beer and food. You can split it among yourselves. I can't help you with anything else. We need a place to rest. We need one too. There are only 5 of you, Nabe said. Your tents are so big and nice. One tent can fit 5 people. We only need 3 tents. I refuse, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Kid, I'm afraid you don't have the right to refuse. Yellow monkey, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Chapter 1386. Bonaparte and the tourist's expressions changed immediately. Sir, have you considered the consequences? Puff, Chen Zhao punched Nabal's eye and he fell to the ground. Covering his eyes, Bonaparte stared at Chen Zhao in shock. He'd thought that Chen Zhao should be afraid of their numbers and endure. But Chen Zhao didn't retreat. Instead, he attacked directly. You seem to have gotten something wrong. The food is mine, the beer is mine, and the tent is mine too. You can beg me, but you can't threaten me. Chen Zhao raised his foot again and kicked the man who'd spoken rudely in the stomach. He dares to hit people. Do it. Another person felt that this was an opportunity, a perfectly justifiable reason to fight. The others immediately understood. 2 people came up to surround Chen Zhao. Headbutt and left hook. The 2 fell to the ground immediately. The others still didn't give up. Chen Zhao punched them one by one. Qiao Shike watched as Chen Zhao attacked. It seemed that Chen Zhao was as strong as Klaus and the others. Go away, Chen Zhao yelled. Otherwise, I'll roast you like meat skewers. Nearly 20 people fled with their tails between their legs. They'd been able to get a meal, but because they wanted more, they didn't even have water to drink. Chen Zhao allowed them to ask for help, but he wouldn't tolerate their threats. Mr. Chen, what about the night watch? Don't worry, Chen Zhao said calmly. Just then, a wave of drunkenness washed over him. Qiao Shike suddenly felt extremely tired. In fact, it wasn't that one couldn't get drunk on Dashan beer. It was just that one would feel excited at first because it contained faint spiritual qi. However, Dashan beer contained alcohol. When it accumulated to a certain level, the alcohol's effects would start to kick in. Looks like you're a bit drunk again. Go rest. Then, you'll be in charge of tonight's watch. Qiao Shike said, forcing himself to stay awake. With that, Qiao Shike swaggered away. Chen Zhao, Jolanash, Morid, and more continued eating and drinking. Those guys still don't seem satisfied. They're planning to wait until we're drunk before attacking. Once people broke away from society, their bottom line would be very low or even non-existent. Especially now that they were tired and hungry, they would become unscrupulous. They were not necessarily bad people, but because of hunger and fatigue, they compromised with their desires. I'm going to sleep, Chen Zhao said, standing up. If you want to play, don't kill people. They're just normal people. Understood, guild leader. Although there were many of them, Morid, and Jolanash could easily deal with them without using magic. The magic power also improved their bodies to a certain extent. Although it wasn't as exaggerated as an enhancement spell, it was still not something an ordinary person could compare to. At night, there was a commotion outside the tent. The next day, when Qiao Shike came out of the tent, he found that it was full of people outside. They were all the people from last night, but most of them had injuries on their faces. Some of them slept directly on the ground, while others didn't sleep at all and just sat in front of the fire. They'd wanted to take over Chen Zhao and the others' place while they were asleep and take advantage of the situation. In the end, he was taught a lesson by Morid, and Jolinash. The three young people looked like they were easy to bully, but they beat them all up. Thankfully, there was a fire in the camp. The poisonous insects and beasts had all been cleared. The three didn't intend to chase them away, so they stayed in the camp for the night. If they continued to wander in the wild at night, they might die. The next day, when everyone came out of the tent, the tourists avoided Chen Zhao's group. They didn't dare to make eye contact with Chen Zhao's group. "Let's go," Chen Zhao said. "Then these tents, no, it's a waste of time to clean them up." Qiao Shike looked at Chen Zhao, stunned. "Then tonight, I have more," Chen Zhao answered. Qiao Shike was completely speechless. Previously, Klaus had told her that their boss could ignore the environment here. Now it seemed that it was true. No wonder Chen Zhao's group seemed to be on vacation here. Perhaps to them, this was really just a vacation. But thinking of the cannibals, Qiao Shike felt uneasy again. There were so many cannibals. Could they really solve the problem and save Klaus and the others? Moreover, were Klaus and the others still alive? "Mr. Chen, if Klaus and the others are killed, what should we do?" "I'll kill all the cannibals," Chen Zhao said. "But Klaus and the others are very strong. Even if they can't beat them, they have a way to go around or hide. I'm confident in them." Qiao Shike wasn't too optimistic about this. Suddenly, everyone stopped in their tracks. These footprints. Qiao Shike looked at the obvious footprints on the ground. "Before us, about 30 people should have passed by here. Can you tell who they are?" "Mercenaries," Qiao Shike said, looking at the chopped plants around them. "They're the same as us." "Mercenaries? Same as our destination?" "I'm not sure. Their route doesn't coincide with ours." Even though their route didn't coincide, they couldn't rule out the possibility that their destination was the same. Because in a tropical rainforest, there were no roads. Thus, every person or team would choose a different direction. For example, some people would take the risk to cross the river, while others would take a detour. Both were possible. Just then, they heard intense gunshots in front of them. "Follow them and take a look," Chen Zhao said. The gunshots didn't come from far. They were probably less than 500 meters away. When they came to a river, they saw a group of mercenaries fighting with a crocodile in the water. The water was filled with blood and turbid water. The mercenaries had encountered a group of crocodiles on the river. Qiao Shike couldn't help but sigh. Compared to the lightning team, the difference was obvious. He thought back to Klaus and the others. They were completely unharmed without using guns. Even the crocodile group was just a small interlude. Nami even caught one alive. By then, someone had already reached the other side. "It's him." Qiao Shike suddenly looked at the person on the other side. "Do you know him?" Chapter 1387. The mercenaries lost 3 people and killed a few crocodiles at the same time. Chen Zhao's group didn't appear until the mercenaries disappeared from sight. "That Candice shouldn't be alive," Qiao Shike murmured to herself. "He should be dead." She didn't understand and couldn't accept it. "Why are you so fake? Just follow him and you'll know why." The group followed the mercenaries in front. They were very careful and kept a distance to ensure that they wouldn't be discovered. Qiao Shike had estimated their strength. They were elites. If it were Qiao Shike and her comrades, they might not have a chance against them. Plus, they had the advantage in numbers. "Drink." Chen Zhao tossed a can of beer to Qiao Shike. but the can suddenly exploded in the air. Immediately, the mercenaries appeared from all directions and pointed their guns at the 5 people. Chen Zhao immediately raised his hands. Morid, Moore, and Jalanash saw his actions and could only do the same. Seeing that Chen Zhao and the others had surrendered, Qiao Shika could only raise her hands in disappointment. This made her very disappointed in Chen Zhao. She thought that Chen Zhao could turn the tide. But Chen Zhao's performance surprised her. Chen Zhao didn't even resist. He just raised his hands and surrendered. Gentlemen, tell me, who are you? The mercenary leader looked at the group. They were dressed very strangely. They didn't look like they were exploring the jungle. Instead, they looked like they were on vacation. Apart from Qiao Shika, he didn't feel any danger from the others. We're tourists, Chen Zhao quickly said. We're here to explore. This is our guide. Then why are you following us? The leader snorted coldly. Don't tell me you didn't follow us. We're lost, Chen Zhao explained. We want to find a way out. We thought that we could find the way out by following you. Then why are you so sneaky? Why don't you just come out? The mercenary leader actually believed Chen Zhao. It was mainly because they were dressed too casually. You're all holding guns. In the East, only the police and criminals would hold guns. You're definitely not the police. Haha, all the mercenaries laughed. Chen Zhao also smiled in agreement. Qiao Saiko was the only one who didn't laugh. She kept looking at Candice. Candice stood at the back of the mercenary group. He also saw Qiao Shika and recognized his identity. But he didn't seem to want to expose it in front of everyone. Chen Zhao's clumsy performance seemed to be effective. Qiao Shika's eyes flickered. Chen Zhao's acting seemed to be able to save their lives for now, but it also made them lose the chance to save their friends. Mr. Candice, what should we do with these people? The mercenary group leader turned around and asked. To make sure they don't leak the secrets of this place, of course we have to bring them along, Candice said. Wouldn't it be better to kill them? If you think this is better, then please go ahead. Qiao Shika instantly tensed up. Chen Zhao's face twitched. Don't kill me. I'm rich. I can give you money, a lot of money. Suddenly, the mercenary group leader laughed. Ha! Of course I'm joking. Look at how scared you are. We only have one goal, and that is to find the treasure. We're not butchers. After that, you'll be free. But before that, you'd better stay by our side so that we can guarantee your safety. Oh right, how much can you give me? $10,000. How about that? Do you think I'm stupid? 10,000 is a lot. If that's all you can give, you'll die in the Amazon rainforest. I can promise you that. 100,000, 100,000, Chen Zhao said in pain. Fine. 100,000 per person. 500,000 for the 5 of you. They have nothing to do with me. I won't pay ransom for them. You have to pay even if you don't want to, or I'll kill you right now, the mercenary group leader said viciously, pointing the muzzle at Chen Zhao's head. Qiao Shika was completely disappointed in Chen Zhao. This man was not only weak but also stingy. He really didn't understand why Klaus respected this man so much. Then, the mercenaries brought Chen Zhao, Qiao Shika, Morid, and Jalanash along. They didn't purposely guard Chen Zhao's group. They believed that even if they escaped, they wouldn't be able to survive here. They wouldn't be able to walk out of the rainforest alive. After all, this was the most dangerous place in the world. Even now, humans couldn't completely explore this place. At noon, the group stopped to take a break. President, you're too much just now. You're actually not willing to pay our ransom, Jolanash said teasingly. Pfft, I won't pay you. Xiao Shika realized that Morid and Jolanash didn't blame Chen Zhao at all. They were still chatting and laughing. After this short break, the group continued on their way. The group advanced quickly. That night, they'd reached the area that Klaus's group had spent 2 days to reach. At the same time, the mercenaries also discovered the magnetic disturbance here. But they seemed to have discovered it long ago. Not only were they not disappointed, they were even more excited. We're one step closer to the treasure, the mercenary leader said excitedly. But just then, a wooden spear shot out from the shadows. Enemy attack. Fight, prepare for battle. Just like the first time Xiao Shika encountered the cannibals, dozens of cannibals attacked again. However, unlike last time, this time, after half of their people died, they all ran away. Chase them, Candace shouted. We can't let them escape. The mercenaries also knew that if they let the cannibals escape, their plan to sneak in would fail. The cannibals were very primitive, but they had a lot of people. If they were prepared, or if all the cannibals came out, the mercenaries would be in trouble. But after chasing for more than a kilometer, the cannibals disappeared. Damn, these monkeys run so fast, the mercenary leader said in disappointment. But the next moment, countless cannibals swarmed out from all directions. There were more than 10 times more than before. These cannibals were either holding bows, spears, or blowguns. In this situation, the powerful firepower of the mercenaries was greatly reduced. Because the distance between them was too close. Chapter 1388. The mercenary leader was so angry that his nose was crooked. This guy was still thinking about his ransom. But he had to consider a problem now. Should he risk his life or not? So many cannibals were pointing their weapons at them. They only needed 1 round of fire to kill more than half of the mercenary group. Their weapons could only kill a few dozen cannibals at most. Just as the mercenary leader was hesitating, Candace walked up to him. Leader, we should surrender for now, Candace said. Maybe we can negotiate with them. If we surrender, can we keep our lives? The leader asked. If we resist now, we'll definitely die. But if we don't attack, we still have a chance to live. Then. I surrender, the leader said. Mr. Candace, that's what you said to my boss, right? Jaziko wasn't there, but she guessed it. She felt like she was in the scene. These cannibals actually knew how to use strategy to lure the enemy in. This was already very unusual, and now she finally understood the problem. It was all Candace's doing. Perhaps he was the real culprit and the truth behind everything. The so-called relic exploration was just a cover. Just like what he'd said to the mercenary leader, the treasure here was also a cover. You know each other? The leader asked. He felt that Jaziko was implying something else. I'm also a mercenary. Not long ago, my boss was hired by him to protect him and come here for archaeology. Then, he never came out again. Now, he lured you here. Jaziko stared at Candace with hatred. Mr. Candace, do you have an explanation for this? That's right. I did find another group of mercenaries, which was the mercenary group that she was in. But because their boss didn't listen to me and acted rashly, everything went to waste. Almost all of them died. I was lucky enough to escape. Candace replied calmly. That's right. Reasonable, Chen Zhao said with a smile. However, you should know the situation here. Since you know that it's impossible to defeat so many cannibals with just these people, you still came. You don't look like you're exploring. You look like you're looking to die, or you're trying to lure them. Chen Zhao said with a smile. Hee hee. Candace let out a long laugh. Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to make everything so embarrassing? Why can't you just pretend to be a bunch of idiots and obediently follow my steps? The mercenary leader pointed his gun at Candace. Tell them to retreat. Otherwise, I will kill you. Leader, please don't be like this. I hope that you can survive and not seek your own deaths. You still want to lie to me? The mercenary group leader roared angrily. Don't they look like a couple quarreling? Chen Zhao teased in a low voice. Jaziko glanced at Chen Zhao with his face tied up. She really didn't think it was meaningful. Shut up. At this time, the mercenary group leader's nerves were already stretched to the extreme. Any little words would cause a strong emotional fluctuation. In fact, he was already leaning toward surrendering. At the very least, he wouldn't die for the time being. Do you know why he had to persuade you to surrender? Chen Zhao said with a smile. Because if you're killed by the cannibals, you'll definitely die from the poison of the poison dart frogs. Then the corpses can't be eaten. He lured you here so that the cannibals can eat you. That's why he set this trap. Candace looked at the seemingly cowardly man in surprise. The mercenary leader's face paled. Finally, he made up his mind. Tell them to fuck off, or I'll kill you. Candace opened his arms wide and shouted loudly, Salisa, Mikula, Dalasa. No one understood what Candace was saying, but it didn't sound like he was telling the cannibals to retreat. The cannibals raised their weapons instead. Their fighting spirit intensified. Bang! The mercenary leader finally couldn't help but shoot. However, he didn't dare to kill Candace directly. He was afraid that the situation would completely collapse, so he shot Candace's arm. The Desert Eagle's bullet hit Candace's arm, and his entire arm was blown off. But Candace's expression was calm. He didn't even look like he was in pain. Light started extending from Candace's broken arm. The light gathered into the shape of an arm. What's that? Xiao Shika was stunned. Chen Zhao reached out and stopped Xiao Shika. We should leave, he whispered. Leave. Chen Zhao picked up a stone and threw it at the cannibals with great force. Poof! A cannibal's head exploded. It was like gunpowder being ignited. The cannibals thought that the mercenaries had attacked. Then, there was a conflict. No one stayed back. Just then, a wooden spear shot at Xiao Shika. Xiao Shika was shocked. She didn't react at all when she saw the spear coming. I'm dead. The next moment, a hand blocked the spear. You should be careful. Chen Zhao tossed the spear away. It's smeared with poison dart frog poison, Xiao Shika yelled. You shouldn't have caught it with your hand. Chen Zhao chuckled. The glutton bloodline might kill him, but he definitely wouldn't die from poison. Let's go before the mercenaries all die. Xiao Shika looked back at the path they were retreating in. The two cannibals behind her suddenly fell to the ground for some reason. Xiao Shika didn't understand how they died at all. But she wasn't in the mood to investigate their cause of death. On the other hand, Chen Zhao's group of 4 left unhurriedly. Chen Zhao turned and left while whistling. Milala! Milala! Candace's hand of light pointed at Chen Zhao's group. A group of cannibals immediately chased after Chen Zhao's group. President, let's do it, Jolanash asked Chen Zhao. Okay, then we won't run. Seeing Jolanash, Xiao Shika walked forward. She was shocked. Did they still want to fight back in this situation? How could a delicate girl like Jolanash fight back? Jolanash raised her right arm and raised it again. Wind blew from the ground. Chapter 1389. Xiao Shika's mouth was open. She didn't know what to say or what expression to use. What's going on? What kind of ability is that? Superpower? Or magic? She couldn't understand. Jolinash's methods had already started to topple her worldview. The cannibals behind immediately rushed forward, shooting wooden spears, bows, and darts at Jolinash. Jolinash put her palms together and opened them again. Two walls of wind formed in the middle and spread to the sides. Everything in their path was swept away. However, the use of wind-type magic in this forest was too limited. There were too many plants, so wind magic was more suitable in open spaces. Facing such an unbelievable battle, Chao Shika was speechless. Candace raised an eyebrow. Only now did he realize that these people weren't ordinary people either. But he wasn't too worried. He was confident in the cannibals and, of course, even more so in himself. Just then, a few natives knelt before Candace and spoke in a language he couldn't understand. It was as if they were worshipping, praying to their own gods. Candace glanced at the cannibals. Then he pointed at them with the hand of light. A beam of light shot out and landed on the first cannibal. Instantly, the cannibal turned into a combination of a human and a leopard. He looked like Agar's. However, the leopard-headed monster that the cannibal native had transformed into was not as tall as Agar's. At the same time, it did not have Agar's superb archery skills. Candace pointed at another cannibal. That one had a crocodile head and a human body. The third one had a wolf head and a human body. The fourth one had a snake head and a human body. Candace looked at Chen Zhao and the others. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not too late to surrender. Mr. Candace, honestly, Chen Zhao teased. Wouldn't it be better if you opened a zoo? Isn't that better than you now? Chen Zhao teased. Chao Shika was speechless. How could he still be in the mood to joke in this situation? Here, I'm their god. Don't try to understand my relationship with them with your lowly way of thinking, Candace said in disdain. God. Aren't you overestimating yourself? Mortal, you will never understand what kind of person I am. Then let me understand. Candace looked at Chen Zhao in silence and then started talking. He hid this secret for 40 years. This was a secret he had never told anyone. 40 years ago, I was only 20 years old, but the hospital diagnosed me with a brain tumor. Do you know how desperate I was back then? I don't know, Chen Zhao said, shrugging. But I'm interested in your despair. I decided that I didn't want to die on my sickbed, so I stepped into this primeval forest, and then I heard the voice of God. That voice called out to me and guided me here. Candace looked at the cannibals. Then I was captured by these cannibals. They threw me into boiling water and wanted to eat me. I thought I was going to die, but at that moment, a beam of light appeared and enveloped me. When I woke up again, I saw the cannibals kneeling before me. At the same time, I understood my duty. That was the first time I received the power of faith. I seemed to have turned into an omnipotent god. No, I was a real god. All the suffering in the past was just a test from God. One day, I will lead my people and become the ruler of this world. They will spread my faith. Candace looked at Chen Zhao and the others. Kneel, mortal. I will grant you supreme glory. You will receive my blessings like them. Bang! Candace's head suddenly exploded. Chen Zhao looked back at Chao Shika. Even Chen Zhao didn't expect Chao Shika to act so decisively and blow up the boss head with one shot. However, Candace didn't fall. He still stood where he was. In the light, his head reassembled, but it was no longer flesh and blood. Instead, it was a head made of light. Ignorant mortals, Candace said, looking at Chao Shika. Your offense will only increase your sins. Go to hell. Go to hell. Xiao Shike fired a series of bullets from his gun. Most of the bullets landed on Candace's body, riddling it with holes. However, the body that was bound to be damaged revealed a body that was completely naked. Under his skin, there was an inner being made of light. He had long broken away from human nature. Seeing Candace's body, more cannibals knelt on the ground and prayed. This person was the god they believed in. In the past few decades, their god had continuously brought them food and strengthened their tribe. Now, they could finally see the god's body clearly. In the eyes of the cannibals, they were the righteous ones. Stubborn fool. Candace's tone was filled with dissatisfaction. As a god, he liked people worshipping him, not offending him. The orcs who had been blessed with divine power were also unhappy that Xiao Shike had offended their god. They roared at Xiao Shike. Candace's body slowly rose into the air. The remaining skin on his body started peeling off. In the end, he turned into a body made of light. At this moment, even Xiao Shike was shaken. Could it be that they were facing a god? The natives in the light transformed one by one. They weren't thin primitive people anymore. They all became tall. Since your power comes from faith and your believers are all cannibals, Chen Zhao asked. If I kill all your believers, will you fall from the altar? Chen Zhao asked. Ha! Lowly mortal, do you think these natives are all my believers? The light on Candace's body grew brighter. More and more animals gathered around Candace. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, they are my people. They are my mouth, my eyes, my thoughts, and my will. There were wild beasts all over the mountains. They had all been summoned by Candace. My people, I will bestow upon you my blessings. Go and kill the offenders for me. Their heads will be the best gift to me. Instantly, all the beasts grew larger. They became violent, bloodthirsty, and cruel. Morid, and Jalanash looked at Chen Zhao. President, you love killing gods. You can take this guy. Chapter 1390. Kill a god. Xiao Shike looked at everyone. Could this cowardly guy kill a god? Don't leave. Candace yelled. Don't even think about escaping. Dozens of orcs charged at them. Chen Zhao raised his arm and a white light flashed. The orcs were instantly turned into ashes. A 10-meter-long scorch mark was left on the ground. Xiao Shike was dumbfounded. This was this man's true ability. He was highly respected by Klaus and the Lightning team. His previous compromise was just a disguise. However, his clothes were a stark contrast to his aura. It was hard to believe that he was a warrior with his colorful clothes. Before this, I've met many idiots who call themselves gods. You're just one of them. I have countless armies and an undying body, Candace said calmly. Candace said calmly, over the past 40 years, my followers have covered every corner of this area, including the bugs in the soil. They are all my followers. That's why I said you're too low level, Chen Zhao said calmly. Treating bugs as believers. That's all you've got. Or, your theory can only be used to trick these brainless things. Chen Zhao said indifferently. That's all you can do. President, we'll go first, Moore said. Okay, go. After we find Klaus and the others, we'll fight alongside you. No need. Run. The further, the better. You don't need to interfere here. President, I won't be your burden, Jalanash said. I don't want to hurt you by accident, Chen Zhao said. It's best if you can escape 100 kilometers after dark. Okay. Stop them. Candace ordered again. This time, it wasn't just the orcs. There were also countless beasts. Qiao Shika watched as the countless beasts attacked like a wave. Her face was pale from fear. But in the next instant, a wall appeared in front of them. It was a wall formed by thousands of swords. Chen Zhao moved his finger and the waves were instantly defeated. "Let's go." More pulled Qiao Shika, who was still in a daze. Qiao Shika suddenly came to her senses. She looked back at Chen Zhao, who was standing before them, and then left with the others. Chen Zhao stood where he was and looked at Candace with his arms crossed. "Other than having a lot of believers, you don't seem to have any other use." Candace's face was green. "You'll soon understand that when the number reaches a certain level, everything can be decided. But you can't stop me from killing, right?" Candace charged at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao raised his right fist and hammered. Candace's body of light dissipated in an instant, but he quickly recovered. As long as his believers were here, he would never be defeated. And his followers were definitely not limited to the ones in front of him. Just as Candace had said, everyone here was his follower. Those that flew in the sky, those that ran on the ground, those that swam in the water, and even those that drilled in the ground, were all his believers. Candace attacked Chen Zhao again. As expected, he was smashed by Chen Zhao again. "You should stay where you are," Chen Zhao said calmly. "Watch how I kill your people and your believers. You should stay where you are. Hee hee. I have an immortal body. You can stop me 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. Chin, chin, chin. Chin, but I halved. Shitsan. Chin chin chin." Chen Zhao, had to kill all his believers to obtain the final victory. But before that, Candace could stop Chen Zhao endlessly. Their intentions were clear. However, Candace was clearly more confident than him. So, he had to be more proactive. Once again, Candace charged at Chen Zhao. But this time, Chen Zhao didn't kill him. Dark lava suddenly erupted from the ground. Candace's legs were immediately covered in it. Candace instantly felt a burning pain and hurriedly retreated. The dark lava was corroding Candace's body. Candace had to use the power of faith to expel this extremely dark power from his body. Both of Candace's legs were turning black. His power of faith was constantly fighting against the power of the dark magma. Candace didn't have the mood to attack Chen Zhao anymore. He had to summon more believers to his side to provide him with faith. "You, demon." Candace gritted his teeth and stared at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao sneered. The dark lava started rampaging and the Imperial Thousand Sword also displayed its terrifying destructive power. Only when believers gathered around Candace could he obtain the power of faith. Once the number of believers around him decreased, his power would weaken too. In other words, if Chen Zhao killed all of his believers, he wouldn't be able to resist the corrosion of the dark lava. Chen Zhao waved his finger. The dark lava swept across the ground and appeared below Candace. The next moment, the dark lava shot toward Candace in the sky. Candace wasn't weak, but his experience was too shallow. He couldn't compare to the experienced Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao had been through countless fierce battles. The dark lava connected to Candace. Although Candace kept struggling, he couldn't break free. Of course, the dark lava couldn't corrode Candace either. It could only bind him temporarily so that he couldn't escape for a while. Chen Zhao started massacring these so-called believers on a large scale. Candace was getting more and more anxious. Seeing that there were fewer and fewer believers around him, his power also weakened. He had to expand the range and summon all the believers. Just as Chen Zhao had said, there were also differences in power among believers. If it was someone with a normal worldview and emotions, the power of faith he could provide would be very high level. Of course, it was still impossible for Candace to convince a normal person to become his follower. Secondly, there were cannibals. They had normal intelligence but didn't have a complete worldview. All their knowledge was limited to this small area. They didn't know what the outside world was like. These kinds of natives were the easiest to make. Their faith was also limited to normal people. But the disadvantage was that they didn't have many people. There were less than 1,000. Candace's biggest goal was to expand the cannibal tribe. Next were the flying beasts and the poisonous insect scaly beasts. Their power of faith was small, but they had a lot. Candace had been walking around the Amazon rainforest these years. The more places he went, the more believers he had. Of course, this did not mean that all the creatures in this land were his followers. His believers also grew old and died. They didn't know how to spread his faith. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.